I'm offering you $50,000 to pretend you love me. Those words shattered everything Lily Harper thought she knew about humiliation. 10 minutes ago, she'd been the pathetic woman abandoned at a restaurant table, tears threatening to spill over cheap mascara. Now a stranger in a $10,000 suit stood before her, desperation bleeding through his polished exterior, asking her to lie to the world. The craziest part? She was actually considering it. Because when you're 30 years old with $17 in your checking account and your landlord's final notice burning a hole in your purse, dignity becomes negotiable. If you want to see how this impossible night changed two broken lives forever, stay until the end. And drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The thing about rock bottom is that it doesn't announce itself with trumpets or warning signs. It just shows up on a Tuesday night in Manhattan, wearing your best dress, the one you bought 3 years ago for a job interview you didn't get, and sits across from an empty chair that cost you 2 weeks of grocery money to deserve. Lily Harper stared at that empty chair like it might suddenly sprout the man who'd promised to meet her there at 7:30. Her phone screen glowed with the time. 8:47 p.m. No messages. No missed calls. Just the slowly dying hope that maybe, just maybe, traffic had swallowed him whole, and he'd come rushing through those restaurant doors with apologies tumbling from his lips. He wasn't coming. She'd known it at 8 o'clock, suspected it at 7:45, but admitting it meant standing up, walking past all these tables full of people who'd watched her sit here alone for over an hour, and facing the hostess who'd asked 3 times if she wanted to order while she waited. The restaurant, David's, some Italian place her date had insisted on, gleamed with the kind of elegance that made Lily's clearance rack dress feel like a costume. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto white tablecloths. The women around her wore jewelry that probably cost more than her car. Her dead car. The one currently gathering tickets in a tow-away zone 6 blocks from her apartment because she couldn't afford the $300 repair. "Miss?" The waiter appeared again, sympathy radiating from his professionally neutral face. "Perhaps a menu? The kitchen is still open." Lily's throat closed. She'd looked at the menu when she first sat down. The cheapest entree cost $42. She had $17.36 in her checking account. She'd checked it 4 times today, as if the numbers might magically rearrange themselves into solvency. "Just water, thank you." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Of course." He refilled her glass for the 4th time and retreated, probably to tell the other servers about the sad woman in the cheap dress nursing free water while her date stood her up. Lily's phone buzzed. Her heart jumped, finally, but the notification was just her bank app reminding her that her account balance was low. As if she needed the reminder. As if she could forget for even 5 minutes that she was 30 years old, single, broke, and apparently so fundamentally undesirable that men couldn't even be bothered to show up to reject her in person. She should leave. Every second she sat here, the humiliation compounded. But leaving meant admitting defeat, and Lily had been admitting defeat a lot lately. Lost her job 4 months ago when the design firm downsized. Lost her apartment 2 weeks after that. Currently crashing on her friend Monica's couch, contributing what she could to groceries while watching her savings account, never impressive to begin with, bleed down to nothing. This date was supposed to be different. New year, new start. All that inspirational nonsense people posted on social media while their lives fell apart offline. Marcus, her date's name, probably fake, had seemed normal on the dating app. Decent job, nice smile, messages that didn't immediately veer into creepy territory. When he'd suggested David's, she should have known it was too good to be true. Men who looked like his profile pictures didn't take women like her to restaurants with valets and wine lists thicker than phone books. She'd spent money she didn't have getting ready for this. $12 at the salon for a blowout that was already falling flat in the humidity. $8 on a rideshare here because she couldn't show up sweating from the subway. She'd even bought new lipstick, $6 she should have spent on literally anything else, because the tutorial she'd watched on YouTube promised it would make her look confident and mysterious. Instead, she just looked alone. "Excuse me," the voice came from her left. Male, deep, with the kind of easy authority that came from never being ignored. Lily looked up, prepared to tell another well-meaning waiter that she was fine, still waiting, yes, she was sure. The man standing beside her table wasn't a waiter. He was tall. She registered that first, with dark hair starting to curl at his collar like he'd gone too long between haircuts, despite clearly being able to afford better. His suit was charcoal gray and fit him like it had been born on his body. No tie, top button undone, but somehow that made him look more sophisticated, not less. He had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp jaw, straight nose, eyes so dark they were almost black in the restaurant's warm lighting. He also looked terrified. Not obviously. His expression was carefully controlled, businessman neutral. But Lily had spent enough time reading people, trying to figure out which design clients would actually pay their invoices, which roommates would steal her food, which landlords would accept rent 3 days late, that she recognized the tiny tells. The muscle jumping in his jaw, the way his hands were shoved in his pockets like he didn't trust them to stay steady, the too careful way he held his shoulders. This man was panicking, and he was very, very good at hiding it. "I apologize for the intrusion," he said, "but I have an unusual proposition for you." Lily blinked. Of all the things she'd expected, "Are you waiting for someone? Can I buy you a drink?" Some sleazy pickup line? That wasn't it. "I'm sorry. My name is Ethan Carlisle." He said it like she should recognize it. She didn't. "I'm here with my board of directors and my grandmother in the private dining room upstairs. We're finalizing a merger that's been in negotiation for 18 months, except there's a problem." Lily glanced around, waiting for the punchline. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? Were there cameras? "Okay," she said slowly, "and this concerns me how?" I told them I was engaged. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Lily stared at him, trying to process. "Congratulations? I'm not." Ethan Carlisle, if that was really his name, pulled out the chair across from her and sat down without asking permission. Up close, she could see the faint shadows under his eyes, the white tension around his mouth. "I'm not engaged. I lied. And in approximately 10 minutes, my grandmother is going to demand to meet my fiancé, and if I can't produce one, this entire deal is going to collapse. Then you should probably tell them the truth." "I can't." The words came out sharp. Then he took a breath, visibly collecting himself. "I'm sorry. That was rude. I'm not. This isn't something I do. Lie to my family. Approach strangers in restaurants. But I'm desperate, and you're alone, and I'm out of options." Lily felt anger flash through her chest, hot and clarifying. "You picked me because I look pathetic enough to need whatever you're offering." "No." He met her eyes directly. "I picked you because you've been sitting here for over an hour with your head up, and most people would have run crying to the bathroom by now. You're either incredibly patient or incredibly stubborn, and right now I need someone stubborn." It wasn't a compliment exactly, but it wasn't pity either, and Lily was so tired of pity. "What exactly are you proposing?" 6 weeks. That's how long until the merger finalizes. I need someone to pretend to be my fiancé. Attend a few family dinners, maybe a charity event or two. Nothing complicated. You'd have your own room in my house, complete privacy, and I'd pay you $50,000. Lily's brain stuttered on that number. $50,000. That was more money than she'd made in the last year combined. That was rent for a year, a new car, breathing room, safety. That was impossible. "This is insane," she said, completely. "You don't know anything about me. I could be anyone, a criminal, a con artist, completely unstable. Are you?" "No, but that's not the point." "The point," Ethan said, and now the desperation was bleeding through his careful control, "is that I have a 6-year-old son who's already been through hell watching his mother die 2 years ago. I've built my entire life around giving him stability. And the merger I'm working on, it's not just about money, it's about securing the company my father built before the board decides I'm too young, too distracted, too much of a single parent to handle the responsibility. My grandmother controls the deciding votes, and she's convinced I need balance in my life. A partner. Proof that I'm not just a workaholic throwing myself into business because I can't face being alone." He stopped, seeming to realize he'd said too much. Lily saw him retreat behind his professional mask, but she'd already seen what was underneath: pain, grief, the bone-deep exhaustion of someone who'd been holding everything together for too long. She knew that feeling. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "There have to be easier options. Hire an actress. Ask a friend. My friends are all in my social circle. This has to be someone my grandmother won't recognize, won't have investigated already." Someone who can walk into a room of sharks and hold their own without 20 years of etiquette training. He paused. And honestly, I saw you sitting here, and I thought, here's someone who knows what it's like when everything falls apart. Someone who won't judge me for making desperate choices. Lily wanted to be offended, wanted to throw his offer back in his face and walk out with whatever dignity she had left. But $50,000 was sitting on the table between them, and she'd stopped being able to afford pride somewhere around the time she'd moved into Monica's spare room. I want it in writing, she heard herself say. A contract, with all the terms spelled out, what I'm expected to do, what happens if things go wrong, how the money gets paid. Ethan's shoulders dropped half an inch. Relief. Of course, I can have my lawyer draw something up by tomorrow morning. No. Lily surprised herself with her firmness. Tonight, before I agree to anything, and I want my own copy signed by both of us. For the first time since he'd sat down, Ethan smiled. It was small, barely there, but genuine. You're right to be careful. Give me 20 minutes. He pulled out his phone and typed rapidly, then looked back at her. What's your name? Lily. Lily Harper. Lily. He said it like he was testing the shape of it. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. He stood, then hesitated. My grandmother is going to ask you questions. About us, how we met, all of it. We should probably make up a story? Get our story straight, he corrected. Nothing too elaborate. The best lies are simple. I wouldn't know, Lily said. I'm not much of a liar. Good. Neither am I. That's probably why I'm so terrible at this. He walked away, phone already pressed to his ear, leaving Lily alone at the table. She looked down at her water glass, at the condensation pooling on the white tablecloth, at her reflection warped in the curved crystal. This was crazy. This was the setup for a horror movie or a cautionary tale your mother told you about stranger danger. No sane person agreed to this kind of arrangement, but Lily hadn't felt sane in months. Sanity was for people who could afford to turn down $50,000. Sanity was for people whose lives weren't actively crumbling around them. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification, this time from her credit card app. Payment due, $847. She'd been avoiding that email for 3 days. Lily picked up her water glass and took a long drink. The ice had melted, turning it lukewarm and slightly metallic. Kind of like her life. What started out promising had gone flat and disappointing. Well, maybe this was her chance to shake things up. Ethan returned in exactly 17 minutes with a sheaf of papers and a pen that probably cost more than her outfit. He sat down, spread the contract on the table between them, and walked her through each clause. 6 weeks. Public appearances as needed, to be scheduled with minimum 24 hours notice. Separate living quarters with full privacy. $50,000 paid in 2 installments, $25,000 up front, $25,000 upon completion of the agreement. Either party could terminate with 48 hours written notice. It was professional, detailed, and completely surreal. What if someone figures out we're faking? Lily asked. Then we handle it together. But my grandmother is sharp. If she suspects something's off, she'll ask you directly. The key is to keep it simple. We met at a charity event 2 months ago. You work in design. We've been keeping it quiet because I didn't want the media attention affecting my son. You have this very thought out for someone who just met me 20 minutes ago. I've had 18 months to think about what my grandmother wanted to hear. I just didn't have anyone to deliver it until now. Lily read through the contract one more time. The money was real. Wire transfer details, account numbers, everything spelled out in legal language she mostly understood. This was actually happening. She picked up the expensive pen. One more thing, she said. Your son. Does he know about this? Ethan's expression shuddered. No, and he won't. Oliver stays out of this completely. You'll meet him. It would look strange if you didn't, but the engagement story is only for the adults. As far as he's concerned, you're just someone I'm dating. Nothing serious, nothing permanent. I won't let him get attached to something that isn't real. There was something painful in the way he said it, something that suggested this wasn't just about protecting his son. But Lily didn't push. She wasn't here to psychoanalyze her temporary employer. She signed her name at the bottom of the contract, the ink flowing smooth and dark against the white paper. Ethan signed beside her, and just like that, Lily Harper became engaged to a man whose last name she'd learned less than half an hour ago. "We should go up," Ethan said, folding his copy of the contract and tucking it inside his jacket. "They're waiting." "Wait." Lily's hands were shaking. "I need a minute. To prepare or whatever." "There's no preparing for my grandmother. Evelyn Carlyle doesn't do practice rounds." But his voice was gentler than his words. "Look, I know this is overwhelming, but you already did the hard part. You said yes. The hard part is going to be convincing a room full of people who know you that we're in love when we barely know each other's middle names. Michael, Ethan Michael Carlyle." He stood and offered her his hand. "And for what it's worth, you don't have to convince them you're in love with me. Just convince them you're someone who could handle being in my life. That's all my grandmother really wants to see." Lily took his hand, warm, steady, calloused in a way that surprised her, and let him pull her to her feet. Her legs felt unsteady, like she'd been sitting too long, or maybe like she was about to walk off a cliff. Same difference, really. The private dining room was on the third floor, accessed by an elevator that probably cost more than Lily's childhood home. Ethan stood beside her in the small space, not quite touching, but close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated, cedar and citrus. "My grandmother can be intense," he said as the elevator climbed. "She's going to test you, ask personal questions, try to rattle you." "Why?" "Because she loves me, and she doesn't trust easily." The elevator dinged. "And because she's Evelyn Carlyle and making people uncomfortable is basically her hobby." The doors opened onto a hallway that led to a pair of dark wooden doors. Ethan paused with his hand on the handle. "Last chance to run," he said. "You couldn't pay me enough to run in these heels." He almost smiled. Then he opened the door, and Lily stepped into a room full of people who were about to decide if she was a convincing liar. The private dining room was smaller than Lily expected, but somehow more intimidating for it. Round table, 8 people seated around it, all of them looking toward the door as it opened. The conversations died immediately. Lily's first impression was money. Not the flashy kind. No one was dripping in diamonds or designer logos, but the quiet, assured wealth of people who'd never had to think about price tags. Tailored clothes, perfect posture, the kind of grooming that came from personal trainers and nutritionists and staff who made sure you always looked effortlessly excellent. Her second impression was judgment. 8 pairs of eyes cataloging every detail of her appearance, from her drugstore makeup to her 3-year-old dress to the scuff on her left heel that she'd tried to hide with a Sharpie. "Ethan." The woman at the head of the table spoke first. She was older, mid-70s maybe, with silver hair swept into a perfect chignon and the kind of bone structure that photographs loved. Everything about her screamed authority. "You're late." "I apologize, grandmother. I was bringing someone to meet you." Ethan's hand found the small of Lily's back, gentle but unmistakable. "Everyone, this is Lily Harper, my fiancée." The silence that followed could have suffocated small animals. Lily felt every eye in the room lock onto her with laser focus. The grandmother, Evelyn, apparently, set down her wineglass with deliberate precision. "Your fiancé," she repeated, voice perfectly neutral. "How unexpected. We've been keeping it quiet," Ethan said, smooth as glass. "Lily's private, and I didn't want the media circus affecting Oliver." "How thoughtful." Evelyn's gaze hadn't left Lily's face. "Come here, child. Let me look at you properly." It wasn't a request. Lily walked forward, feeling like she was approaching a throne. Up close, Evelyn Carlyle was even more formidable. Pale blue eyes that missed nothing, posture that could shame a ballerina, the faint scent of Chanel No. 5 in power. "So," Evelyn said, "my grandson proposes to a woman none of us have met, mentions nothing about being in a relationship, and expects us to simply accept this sudden development." "I can understand your skepticism," Lily said, and was relieved when her voice came out steady. "Can you?" It wasn't a question. "Tell me, dear, how did you two meet?" This was it, the first test. Lily felt Ethan tense beside her and knew he was waiting to see if she'd fold. "At a charity gala," she said, 2 months ago. The Children's Hospital benefit. "And what do you do, Lily Harper?" "I'm a designer, freelance mostly, residential interiors, some commercial work." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had done design work before she got laid off, before her portfolio website expired because she couldn't afford the hosting fees. "Fascinating. Evelyn's tone suggested it was anything but. And you fell in love with my grandson over canapes and silent auctions? No. Lily met the older woman's eyes directly. I thought he was pretentious and probably boring. He thought I was argumentative and too opinionated for my own good. We spent 20 minutes debating the ethics of charity galas while everyone else networked. It was the most honest conversation I'd had in months. Ethan made a small noise that might have been surprise. Evelyn's eyebrow rose a fraction of an inch. Argumentative, she repeated. She told me that wealthy people throwing parties to congratulate themselves for donating money was performative nonsense, Ethan said, and there was something in his voice that might have been actual amusement. Then she explained exactly how the fundraising model could be restructured to be more effective. I may have had too much champagne, Lily said. You had ginger ale. You don't drink. Ethan looked at his grandmother. She also told me my tie was ugly. It was, Lily said. Terrible pattern. Made you look like a stockbroker from the 80s. Someone at the table coughed to cover a laugh. Evelyn's expression hadn't changed, but something shifted in her eyes. Calculation or amusement, Lily couldn't tell which. Sit down, Evelyn said, gesturing to two empty chairs. Both of you, we're not finished here. The next hour was a masterclass in polite interrogation. Evelyn asked questions, casual, conversational, absolutely ruthless. Where did Lily grow up? Did she have family? What were her thoughts on raising children? Had she considered how being with Ethan would change her life? Lily answered honestly where she could and carefully where she couldn't. Yes, she was from upstate New York. No, her parents weren't in the picture. Died in a car accident when she was 19. She had thoughts on children, but no direct experience. And as for her life changing, wasn't that the point of getting engaged? The board members asked fewer questions, but Lily felt them watching, measuring. One man, Harrison something, Ethan's VP of operations, seemed openly hostile. His mouth pressed into a thin line of disapproval. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes smiled encouragingly whenever Lily spoke, though that somehow felt more dangerous than outright hostility. Ethan fielded some questions too, weaving their fake history with enough detail to sound real, but not so much that they'd trip over contradictions later. First kiss after an argument about urban planning. Engagement a month ago, quiet dinner, nothing fancy because Lily hated being the center of attention. That part, at least, was becoming true by the minute. Well, Evelyn said eventually, setting down her dessert fork with the finality of a judge's gavel. This has been illuminating. Lily couldn't tell if that was good or bad. Ethan's hand found hers under the table, his grip just slightly too tight. I have one more question, Evelyn said, looking directly at Lily. Why are you really here? The room went silent. Lily felt Ethan start to speak, but she squeezed his hand. Shut up, I've got this. Because your grandson asked me to be, she said simply, and because I said yes. That's not an answer. Yes, it is. Lily took a breath. Look, Mrs. Carlyle. Evelyn. Evelyn, I know how this looks. Sudden engagement, woman nobody's heard of, probably a dozen red flags you're too polite to mention out loud. And honestly, you should be suspicious. If I were in your position, I would be. She felt Ethan's hand tighten on hers, but kept going. But I'm here because when Ethan talks about his son, his voice changes. When he mentions his company, I can see how much it means to him. And when he looks at the people in this room, I see someone who's carrying weight that would break most people. So when he asked me to be part of his life, even knowing it would mean nights like this, I said yes. Because I'd rather be here being grilled by you than safe at home wondering what if. It was the most honest thing she'd said all night. Maybe too honest. The contract didn't require her to actually care about Ethan Carlyle or his complicated life. But something about the exhaustion in his eyes, the careful way he held himself together, the fact that he was willing to hire a stranger rather than admit weakness, it got to her. Reminded her of every time she'd smiled through a disaster and pretended everything was fine. Evelyn studied her for a long moment. Then she picked up her wine glass and raised it slightly. Welcome to the family, dear. Try not to let us eat you alive. The tension in the room fractured. People reached for their drinks, conversations resumed, and Lily realized she'd been holding her breath for the last 30 seconds. Ethan leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. That was either brilliant or completely insane. Probably both. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. People asked more questions, but the sharp edge of interrogation was gone, replaced by something that felt almost like acceptance. The kind woman, Margaret, wife of one of the board members, asked about Lily's design work with genuine interest. Even Harrison thawed slightly, though he still looked like he was mentally running a background check. By the time they finally stood to leave, Lily's face hurt from smiling, and her brain felt like mush from tracking all the lies they'd told. Ethan walked her to the elevator, his hand still at the small of her back. Proprietary, couple-like. It should have felt wrong, but mostly it just felt warm. "You were perfect," he said once the elevator doors closed and they were alone. I was terrified. "I know, that's what made it perfect." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the careful style. "My grandmother liked you." "How can you tell? She looked at me like I was a puzzle she was considering solving or throwing away." "That's her liking you. If she didn't, she would have just been coldly polite and then had you investigated down to your kindergarten report cards." He paused. "She's probably still going to do that, but at least she'll feel guilty about it." The elevator reached the ground floor. Lily stepped out into the restaurant lobby, suddenly aware that her part of the night was over and she had no idea what happened next. "I should go," she said. "I'll have my driver take you home." "That's not necessary." "Lily." Ethan's voice was gentle but firm. "You just saved my entire merger. Let me give you a ride home." She was too tired to argue. Besides, the thought of taking the subway back to Monica's place, still wearing this dress and these shoes, made her want to cry. Ethan's car was exactly what she expected. Sleek, black, probably German, with a driver who appeared out of nowhere and opened the door like Lily was someone who mattered. She gave him Monica's address in Brooklyn and settled into leather seats that felt like butter. Ethan slid in beside her. "I'll wire the first payment tomorrow morning, $25,000 as agreed." "Okay." $25,000. She still couldn't quite process it. "And I'll need you to come to my house this weekend. Meet Oliver, let him get used to seeing you around. Nothing formal, just casual." "Ethan." Lily turned to face him. "About your son. I meant what I said in the contract discussion. I'm not going to pretend to be his new mother or—" "I know. I wouldn't ask that." His jaw tightened. "Oliver's been through enough. His mother died when he was 4. He barely remembers her, and that kills me every day. The last thing I want is for him to get attached to someone who's going to disappear in 6 weeks. Then why introduce us at all? Because if I suddenly have a fiancé who never interacts with my son, that's going to raise questions. We just need to make it believable enough that no one looks too close." The car glided through Manhattan traffic, past buildings lit up against the night sky. Lily watched the city slide by and wondered what the hell she'd just gotten herself into. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure." "Why did you lie about being engaged in the first place?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "My grandmother has been on me for 2 years about moving on, finding someone, giving Oliver a stable family. She's convinced I'm going to work myself to death trying to prove I can handle the company. And maybe she's right." He looked out the window. "The merger is important. It positions us for the next decade, secures jobs for 3,000 employees. But the board's been hesitant because they think I'm distracted. Too young, too emotional, too focused on being a father instead of a CEO. I needed them to see me as stable, settled, and apparently that requires a fiancé." "Boy, so you lied." "So I lied." He said it flatly, no excuses. "And then I spent 18 months trying to figure out how to either make it true or confess, and I'm apparently a coward because I did neither." "You're not a coward," Lily said. "You're just scared." "Is there a difference?" "Yeah, cowards run away. Scared people ask strangers for help in restaurants." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Lily saw something shift in his expression. Recognition? Maybe. Like he was seeing her as an actual person instead of a convenient solution. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For tonight. For all of it. Thank you for the $50,000. Fair." A ghost of a smile. "Though I'm pretty sure you earned every penny in that first 5 minutes with my grandmother." The car pulled up outside Monica's building, a walk-up in a neighborhood that was trying hard to gentrify but hadn't quite made it. Lily could see the driver's eyes flick to the graffiti on the corner bodega, the overflowing trash bins, the general air of managed decay. This was her real life. Not private dining rooms and chauffeurs and contracts worth more than her annual salary. This. I'll text you about this weekend, Ethan said. And Lily, if you change your mind, if this gets too complicated, just tell me. The contract says 48 hours notice, but honestly, I'll understand if you need to walk away. I'm not going to walk away. How do you know? Because I already spent your money in my head. She opened the car door. Paid rent, fixed my car, bought groceries without checking my bank account first. I'm not giving that up unless you do something really terrible. I'll try to keep my terrible behavior to a minimum. Lily stepped out onto the sidewalk, then leaned back down. Ethan, your grandmother doesn't think you're too emotional. She thinks you're lonely. She closed the door before he could respond and walked into the building without looking back. Her hands were shaking as she climbed the 3 flights to Monica's apartment, key fumbling in the lock. Monica was still awake, curled on the couch with a book and a glass of wine. She looked up as Lily came in. How was the date? He didn't show. Oh, honey, I'm sorry, but I got engaged to a billionaire instead, so overall, pretty good night. Monica stared at her. What? Lily kicked off her heels, collapsed onto the couch, and started laughing. It came out slightly hysterical, tinged with exhaustion and disbelief, and the slow dawning realization that her life had just taken a hard left turn into complete insanity. You're going to need more wine, she said. This is going to take a while. Monica didn't believe her at first. Sat there on the couch with her wine glass frozen halfway to her mouth, eyes getting progressively wider as Lily explained about the empty chair, the desperate billionaire, the contract signed on a restaurant table while her humiliation was still fresh. Let me get this straight, Monica said slowly. A man you'd never met offered you $50,000 to pretend to be his fiancée, and you said yes. $25,000 up front, the rest when it's over. Lily, that's insane. That's how horror movies start. That's how you end up chopped into pieces in someone's basement. He has a kid and a grandmother. Serial killers don't usually bring their victims to meet the family. You met his family? Tonight? At the same restaurant where you got stood up? Lily pulled her phone out and opened her banking app. The screen still showed $17.36, but by tomorrow morning that number would have 5 digits. The thought made her feel dizzy. I know how it sounds, she said. But Mon, I was sitting there in that restaurant, feeling like the biggest loser on the planet, and then this opportunity just appeared. $50,000. That's a year of rent. That's my car fixed and money left over. That's not having to check my account before buying groceries. Monica set down her wine glass and pulled Lily into a hug. She smelled like the coconut shampoo they shared and the lavender detergent they bought in bulk from Costco. I know you're desperate, Monica said quietly. I know things have been awful, but please tell me you're being careful. I got it in writing, contract, terms, everything spelled out. Can I see it? Lily pulled the folded papers from her purse and handed them over. Monica read through the whole thing twice, her expression shifting from skeptical to thoughtful to something that looked almost impressed. This is actually legitimate, she said finally. I mean, crazy, but legitimate. The legal language is solid. Payment terms are clear. There's even a termination clause. I told you. You told me you got engaged to a billionaire. You didn't mention he was smart enough to make it legally binding. Monica looked up. Ethan Carlisle. Why does that name sound familiar? No idea. I'd never heard of him. Monica grabbed her laptop and typed rapidly. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God. Lily, Ethan Carlisle is the CEO of Carlisle Industries. They do commercial real estate development, tech investments, a bunch of other stuff. His family's worth like $500 million. What? Monica turned the laptop around. The screen showed a professional headshot of Ethan. Same dark eyes, same serious expression, but somehow the camera had caught something Lily had only glimpsed in person. He looked lonely, tired, like someone who'd learned to smile for photographs but forgot why he used to mean it. There's stuff about his wife dying, Monica said, scrolling. Cancer. She was 28. And look, here's a picture of his son. The photo showed a little boy with dark curly hair and Ethan's eyes, grinning at the camera while holding a soccer ball. Oliver. 6 years old and already learning what loss felt like. He's cute, Lily said, her chest tightening. He looks like his dad. Monica kept scrolling. Okay, so Ethan took over the company when his father retired 5 years ago. There was some drama about him being too young, but he turned things around. Expanded into sustainable development, doubled their portfolio value. Seems legit. You sound like you're vetting him for actual dating. I'm vetting him for fake dating, which somehow requires more research. Monica closed the laptop. Look, I'm not going to tell you this is a good idea, because it's not. But I'm also not going to tell you not to do it, because $25,000 in your account tomorrow is going to change your life. I know. Just promise me you'll be smart. Keep records. Don't let him push the boundaries of what's in that contract. And if anything feels wrong, you walk away. I promise. Monica pulled her in for another hug. Also, you have to let me help you shop for outfits, because showing up to fancy events in your interview dress is not going to cut it. I can't afford. He's paying you to be his fiancée. Part of that job is looking the part. Tell him you need an appearance budget. Lily hadn't thought of that. But Monica was right. If Ethan wanted her to be convincing at charity galas and family dinners, she needed clothes that didn't scream clearance rack. She fell asleep that night on Monica's couch, still wearing her makeup, phone clutched in her hand like she was afraid the contract might disappear if she looked away too long. Her dreams were a confused tangle of empty restaurant chairs and silver-haired grandmothers and little boys with dark eyes asking questions she didn't know how to answer. The money hit her account at 9 the next morning. Lily was eating cereal, the cheap kind that turned the milk weird colors, when her phone buzzed with the notification. She opened the app, expecting to see the same pathetic balance she'd been staring at for months. $25,017.36. She dropped her spoon. Milk splattered across Monica's coffee table. Oh my God, she breathed. Monica stuck her head out of her bedroom. What? It's real, the money. It's actually in my account. They both stared at the phone screen like it might be a hallucination. Then Monica started laughing, and Lily joined her, and for about 30 seconds they just stood in the tiny living room, giggling like idiots while cereal milk dripped onto the floor. Lily's phone buzzed again. Text message from an unknown number. Money should be there. Let me know when you receive it. We need to schedule this weekend. Ethan. She saved his number and typed back. Received. Thank you. When works for you? Saturday afternoon? 2 p.m.? I'll send a car. I can take the subway. Lily, please just let me send the car. She thought about arguing, then remembered she was being paid $50,000 to make his life easier, not harder. Okay, send me the address. The address he sent made Monica whistle when Lily showed her. That's the Upper East Side, like the fancy part of the Upper East Side. Your fake fiancé has serious money. I'm aware. Are you? Because I don't think you're fully grasping what you've gotten yourself into. Monica grabbed Lily's shoulders. This isn't just some guy with a nice apartment. This is old money, social register, the kind of people who summer in the Hamptons and have their kids' names down for private schools before they're born. You're not helping. I'm preparing you. There's a difference. Monica released her and headed for the closet. Okay, Saturday your meeting is casual, but put together. You need to look like someone who belongs in his world, but isn't trying too hard. I don't have anything like that. I know. That's why we're going shopping. They spent Thursday afternoon in stores Lily usually walked past without looking. Monica had a good eye and better negotiating skills, talking sales associates into discounts and steering Lily away from anything too flashy or too cheap. By the end of the day, Lily had 3 outfits that made her look like someone who could afford more than instant ramen, plus a pair of shoes that didn't have Sharpie covering the scuffs. This is too much, Lily said, watching the total climb at the register. This is an investment. Besides, it's his money you're spending. He gave me money to pretend to be his fiancée, not to go on a shopping spree. Same thing. Monica handed over Lily's new credit card, the one she'd finally been able to pay down with the first installment. You can't show up to his house looking like you're there to clean it. Image matters to these people. The saleswoman wrapped everything in tissue paper like they were precious artifacts instead of just clothes. Lily carried the bags back to Monica's apartment feeling like an imposter wearing someone else's life. Friday, she spent researching, looked up Carlisle Industries, read articles about Ethan's business ventures, studied photos of his late wife. Sarah Carlisle had been beautiful, blonde, elegant, always smiling in pictures. The kind of woman who looked natural in gowns and at charity events. Everything Lily wasn't. She found their wedding announcement in the Times archives. They'd been 24 and 22, married at some estate in Connecticut with 300 guests. The write-up gushed about two prominent families joining, old money and older money, a perfect match. Sarah had died 2 years ago. Breast cancer, aggressive, caught too late. The obituary mentioned her husband and young son, her charity work, her love of classical music. There was a photo from her memorial service. Ethan, in a black suit, holding Oliver's hand, both of them looking hollowed out by grief. Lily closed her laptop, feeling queasy. She was stepping into a dead woman's place, even temporarily, pretending to fill a role that someone real had occupied, someone Ethan had actually loved. This was more complicated than she'd thought. Saturday arrived too fast. Lily changed outfits 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a soft blue sweater that Monica insisted made her eyes look good. Not too formal, not too casual. The kind of thing a normal person might wear to meet their boyfriend's kid for the first time. Except nothing about this was normal. The car arrived at exactly 2. Same driver as before, same black sedan, same feeling of being in over her head. Lily gave him a nervous smile and climbed in. The drive uptown took 40 minutes in Saturday traffic. Lily watched the neighborhoods change, her gritty corner of Brooklyn giving way to Manhattan steel and glass, then gradually softening into tree-lined streets with townhouses and doormen. By the time they pulled up to Ethan's address, even the air seemed more expensive. His house was a brownstone, 4 stories, pristine facade, window boxes that probably had flowers in them during warmer months. The kind of place Lily had walked past 1,000 times without imagining anyone actually lived there. The driver opened her door. "Mr. Carlyle is expecting you." Lily climbed the front steps, feeling like she was approaching a castle. Before she could knock, the door swung open. Ethan looked different in daylight, less polished, more human. He wore jeans and a gray Henley, bare feet, hair still damp like he'd just showered. No billion-dollar CEO here, just a tired dad on a Saturday afternoon. "You're early," he said. "Traffic wasn't bad. Come in. Oliver's in the playroom, but I wanted to talk to you first." The inside of the house matched the outside. Tasteful, expensive, somehow still warm. Hardwood floors, cream-colored walls, furniture that looked comfortable instead of just decorative. There were toys scattered in one corner, a kid's backpack hanging by the door, drawings stuck to the fridge with magnets. Signs of actual life. Ethan led her to the kitchen and gestured to a stool at the island. "Coffee? Water?" "Water's fine." He poured 2 glasses and sat across from her. Up close, she could see the circles under his eyes were darker than Wednesday night. "Are you okay?" she asked. Honest answer or polite answer? Honest. "No. I've been lying to my son for 2 days about why a woman he's never met is coming over. The board is demanding updates on merger timeline, and my grandmother called this morning to tell me she's planning an engagement party." "What?" "In 3 weeks. Black tie, 200 guests, at her estate in Connecticut." He rubbed his face. "I tried to talk her out of it. Said we wanted something small, private. She informed me that Carlyles don't do small and private, and if I was going to get engaged, I was going to do it properly." Lily's stomach dropped. "The contract didn't mention parties." "I know. I'm sorry. I'll add a bonus payment for it, and I promise you won't have to do anything except show up and smile." He looked miserable. "I can try to stop her, but she's Evelyn Carlyle, and stopping her is like stopping a freight train." "Exactly." Lily thought about it. A party meant more lying, more performance, more chances to screw up. But it also meant more money, and she'd already committed to this insanity. "Okay," she said. "But you're buying my dress." "Done. I'll have someone send over options." He took a breath. "About Oliver. I told him you're someone I've been seeing, nothing serious yet. He's 6, so he's going to ask a million questions and probably tell you his entire life story in the first 5 minutes. Just be yourself. Kids can smell fake from a mile away." "What if he doesn't like me? Then we'll deal with it. But honestly, Oliver likes most people. Ethan's expression softened. "He's a good kid. Too good sometimes. After Sarah died, he got very careful about not making things harder for me. 6 years old and already trying to take care of his dad." The pain in his voice was raw enough that Lily had to look away. "I won't let him get attached," she said quietly. "I promise." "I know. That's why I hired you instead of—" He trailed off. "Instead of actually dating someone?" instead of dragging some poor woman into this mess who might actually want a future with me. Before Lily could figure out how to respond to that, a small voice called from somewhere upstairs. Dad? Is she here? Ethan's whole demeanor changed. The exhaustion smoothed away, replaced by something lighter. Yeah, buddy. Come down. Footsteps thundered on stairs, then Oliver appeared in the kitchen doorway. He was smaller in person than in photos. Skinny legs and soccer shorts, ratty t-shirt with some cartoon character Lily didn't recognize, curly dark hair that stuck up in every direction. But it was his eyes that caught her, dark like Ethan's but wider, more open, still believing the world might be kind. Hi, he said, suddenly shy. Hi, Lily said back. You must be Oliver. Yeah, you're Lily. That's me. He studied her for a moment, then apparently decided she was acceptable. Do you like soccer? I don't know much about it, honestly. I can teach you. I'm really good. My coach says I have natural talent. He said it matter-of-factly, no bragging, just reporting information. That sounds cool. Do you want to see my room? I have a Lego city. It took me 3 weeks to build. Ethan started to intervene. Oliver, maybe give Lily a chance to... I'd love to see it, Lily said. Oliver's face lit up. He grabbed her hand. His was small and sticky with what might have been juice, and pulled her toward the stairs. Ethan followed, looking bemused. Oliver's room was exactly what she'd expected. Toys everywhere, posters of soccer players, books crammed onto shelves, the organized chaos of a smart kid with too many interests. The Lego city covered most of his desk, an impressive sprawl of buildings and roads and tiny plastic people. This is the hospital, Oliver explained, pointing. And this is the school, and this part is the police station, but I ran out of blue bricks, so it's kind of pink right now. It's amazing, Lily said, and meant it. The detail was incredible. Street signs, parks, even a tiny pizza place. My mom liked Legos too, Oliver said casually. She helped me start the city before she got sick. Lily felt Ethan tense in the doorway. But Oliver just kept talking, matter of fact. She died 2 years ago. I was 4, so I don't remember everything, but I remember building Legos with her. He looked up at Lily. Do you have a mom? I did. She died when I was 19. Oh. Oliver processed this. That's sad. Yeah, it is. Dad says it's okay to be sad about people dying. You just have to also remember the good stuff. Your dad's right. Oliver seemed satisfied with this exchange. He launched into an explanation of the city's traffic system, complete with hand gestures and sound effects. Lily listened, asking questions when appropriate, and tried not to think about how easy it would be to care about this kid. An hour passed before Ethan finally intervened, suggesting snacks. They moved back downstairs, Oliver chattering the whole way about his soccer team, his teacher, his best friend Marcus, who could burp the alphabet. In the kitchen, Ethan pulled out apple slices and peanut butter while Oliver climbed onto a stool and continued his monologue. Lily caught Ethan's eye over the kid's head and saw something that looked like gratitude. So are you my dad's girlfriend? Oliver asked suddenly. Lily nearly choked on her water. Ethan went very still. Lily said. We're spending time together, getting to know each other. But you might be his girlfriend later. Maybe. We'll see. Okay. Oliver crunched an apple slice. My friend Emma's mom has a boyfriend. He's nice, but he talks too loud. You're not loud. Thanks. Do you want to play soccer with us? We usually play in the park on Saturdays. Lily looked at Ethan, who shrugged. If you want. No pressure. She should say no. Keep boundaries, stay professional. Remember, this was a job. But Oliver was looking at her with those hopeful eyes, and Ethan looked like he could use an hour of not being alone with his thoughts. Sure, she heard herself say. I'm probably terrible at it, though. That's okay. Dad's terrible, too. Hey, Ethan protested, but he was smiling. They walked to the park, a real park with grass and trees and families everywhere. Oliver ran ahead, ball at his feet, while Ethan and Lily followed at a more sedate pace. You're good with him, Ethan said quietly. I'm not doing anything special. You're treating him like a person instead of a tragedy. That's more special than you think. He paused. Most people either ignore him or get this sad look and try to talk to him in baby voices. You just talk to him. He's 6, not stupid. Exactly. They reached an open area where Oliver was already setting up goals using his backpack and Ethan's jacket. For the next hour, Lily learned that she was, in fact, terrible at soccer. Oliver ran circles around her, literally, while providing running commentary on her technique. You have to use the side of your foot, not your toe, he explained patiently. And don't look at the ball. Look where you want it to go. That seems counterintuitive. That's what Dad says, too. Ethan was better than Oliver had suggested, but he held back, letting his son score repeatedly while Lily mostly just tried not to trip. Other families played nearby, couples with kids, groups of teenagers, the usual weekend park crowd. A few people glanced their way, probably seeing what looked like a normal family enjoying a Saturday afternoon. The lie was getting easier. After soccer, they got ice cream from a cart. Oliver insisted Lily try his flavor, chocolate with gummy bears, and wrinkled his nose at her choice of vanilla. That's boring, he pronounced. I like boring. Why? Good question. Lily thought about it while Oliver waited expectantly. Sometimes boring is nice, she said finally. It means you know what you're getting, no surprises. But surprises can be good. Sometimes, but sometimes they're just scary. Oliver considered this with the gravity of someone much older. I guess. When my mom got sick, that was a bad surprise. Ethan made a small sound, but Oliver kept going. But when Dad said we could get a dog last year, that was a good surprise, so maybe it's 50-50. You have a dog? Lily asked. Yeah, Biscuit. He's at my grandma's this weekend because she wanted to see him. He's a golden retriever and he's really dumb, but I love him. They walked back to the house as the afternoon faded into early evening. Oliver's energy finally flagged, and he leaned against Ethan's side, ice cream smeared on his face. I like her, Dad, he announced. She can come back. I'm glad you think so, Ethan said, ruffling his son's hair. Back at the house, Oliver went upstairs to play video games while Ethan walked Lily to the door. Thank you, he said, for today, for being patient with him. He's a great kid. He really is. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him. The engagement party is 3 weeks from tomorrow. My grandmother's assistant will coordinate with you on dress options and timing. And before that, there's a charity brunch next Sunday that I need you to attend. Okay. You can say no to any of this. The contract doesn't obligate you to... Ethan, I said, okay. He studied her face like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. Why are you being so understanding about all this? Because you're paying me? No, I mean, most people would be demanding more money, complaining about the scope creep, questioning every new event. You're just rolling with it. Lily thought about how to explain that when you'd spent months watching your life fall apart piece by piece, you got used to rolling with things, adapted or drowned, and she'd been treading water so long that any current felt better than staying still. Maybe I'm just desperate enough not to be difficult, she said. Or maybe you're just a better person than I deserve for this situation. Don't canonize me yet. I'm doing this for money, remember? I remember. But something in his expression suggested he was starting to doubt that was the only reason. The car was waiting outside. Lily climbed in, and as they pulled away, she looked back to see Ethan still standing in the doorway, Oliver's voice calling him from somewhere inside. Back at Monica's apartment, her friend was waiting with wine and questions. How was it? Complicated, Lily said, kicking off her shoes. He has the greatest kid and a nice house, and I think I'm starting to actually like him, which wasn't part of the plan. Oh no. Yeah. Monica poured her a very large glass of wine. Okay, but liking him is fine as long as you remember this is temporary. 6 weeks, then you walk away with your money and your life back. I know. Do you? Because you have this look on your face like you're forgetting the part where this is all fake. I'm not forgetting anything. Lily took a long drink. But it's hard to remember it's fake when his kid is showing you his Lego city and talking about his dead mom like it's just a fact of life. Or when Ethan looks at his son and you can see how much he loves him and how scared he is of screwing it up. That's called empathy, and it's going to get you in trouble. Probably. They sat in silence for a while, Monica scrolling through her phone, while Lily stared at nothing and tried to figure out when exactly she'd stopped thinking of Ethan Carlisle as a business transaction and started thinking of him as a person she might actually care about. The charity brunch the following Sunday was Lily's first real test as Ethan's fiancée in public. The venue was some country club in Westchester, all rolling lawns and white columns, and people who'd never seen a subway car in their lives. Ethan picked her up himself this time, driving a different car, still expensive but more subdued than the chauffeured sedan. He wore a light gray suit with no tie, somehow managing to look both formal and relaxed. "You look nice," he said as she climbed in. Lily glanced down at her dress. Navy blue, Monica approved, bought specifically for events like this. "Thanks. So do you." "I hate these things," he said as they pulled into traffic. 3 hours of small talk with people who want favors or investments or just to be seen talking to someone important. "Then why go?" "Because my grandmother is on the board, and if I don't show, I'll hear about it for the next 6 months. Plus, it's for a good cause, Children's Hospital, so I can't really justify skipping." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Lily watched the city give way to suburbs, trees, and grass replacing concrete and steel. "I've been thinking," Ethan said eventually, "we should probably have a better backstory. The charity gala meeting is fine for casual questions, but if anyone digs deeper, we need details." "Like what?" "Like what we talked about. What our first real conversation was about. The moment one of us realized it was more than casual." He glanced at her. "My grandmother's going to ask. She's been suspiciously quiet since Wednesday, which means she's planning something." "Okay, so what's our story?" They spent the rest of the drive building it out. First conversation about architecture. Lily complained about a new development ruining the neighborhood character. Ethan defended functional design. They argued for 20 minutes before realizing they were both right. First date at a quiet restaurant, nothing fancy, where they talked until closing. The moment Ethan knew it was serious, watching Lily explain her design philosophy to a friend and realizing she saw spaces the same way he saw buildings, as things that shaped how people lived. "What about you?" Ethan asked. "When did you know?" They were stopped at a red light. Lily looked at him, the careful way he held himself, the exhaustion he tried to hide, the small tells that suggested a man barely holding it together. "When you talked about Oliver," she said, "the way your whole face changed, like he was the only thing that mattered." It was true enough that it didn't feel like lying. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's good. Use that." The country club was exactly as insufferable as Lily had imagined. Valets, champagne on silver trays, women in designer dresses that cost more than Lily's first car. She felt immediately out of place despite Monica's coaching and the navy dress that had seemed so sophisticated in the mirror. Ethan's hand found the small of her back. "Breathe. You belong here as much as anyone." "I really don't." "Neither do most of them. They're just better at pretending." He guided her through the crowd, stopping every few feet to shake hands or exchange pleasantries. Lily smiled and nodded and tried to remember names that all sounded vaguely similar. The conversations were predictable. Congratulations on the engagement. Where's the wedding? Have you set a date? How did he propose? Ethan fielded most of it with practiced ease, occasionally glancing at Lily to confirm details they'd fabricated in the car. She jumped in when needed, adding small touches that made the lies feel real. Then Evelyn appeared. "Ethan, Lily." She materialized out of the crowd like a shark sensing blood. "How lovely to see you both." "Grandmother." Ethan kissed her cheek. "You look well. I look old, but thank you for lying." Her sharp eyes fixed on Lily. "And you, dear? Settling into your new role?" "Still getting used to it," Lily said honestly. "I imagine so. It's quite a change from your previous life." There was something pointed in the way she said it. Lily felt Ethan tense. "Lily's been very patient with all the attention," he said carefully. "I'm sure. Tell me, dear, have you given any thought to the wedding itself? I know the engagement party is first, but these things require planning." "We haven't really discussed—" "You should. A wedding of this magnitude takes at least a year to plan properly. Venue, guest list, flowers, the dress, of course. Unless you're planning something smaller." It was a trap. Lily could see it in Evelyn's eyes. Any answer would be wrong. Too big, and she looked like a gold digger. Too small, and she didn't understand Carlisle expectations. "We're still figuring out what feels right for us," Lily said. "Neither of us wants something that's just for show." Evelyn's eyebrow rose. "All weddings are for show, dear. The question is what you're showing. Then I guess we want to show that we actually care about each other more than we care about impressing people. Silence. Ethan looked like he might intervene, but Evelyn smiled. Actually smiled, thin and sharp, but genuine. Well said. Come, let's find our table. I want you sitting with me. Lunch was an endurance test. Evelyn held court, asking questions that seemed casual but weren't, watching Lily's reactions like a scientist studying a specimen. Other board members joined them, along with their spouses, and Lily found herself navigating conversations about charities she'd never heard of and vacation homes in places she couldn't pronounce. Ethan stayed close, running interference when needed, his hand occasionally finding hers under the table. The touch felt more real than it should have. Halfway through dessert, a woman approached their table. Tall, blonde, elegant in the way that came from personal trainers and expensive salons. She wore a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan," she said warmly, "it's been too long." Ethan's whole body went rigid. "Victoria, I didn't know you were back in town." "Just for the weekend. Charity obligations." Her gaze slid to Lily, assessing. "And you must be the fiancé I've been hearing about." "Lily Harper," Lily said, extending her hand. Victoria's handshake was brief, dismissive. "Victoria Ashworth, Ethan and I are old friends." The way she said friends made it clear they'd been more than that. "How nice," Lily said blandly. "Isn't it? We've known each other since we were children. Same school, same social circle." Victoria smiled at Ethan. "I remember when you used to say you'd never get married again after Sarah." Funny how things change. The table went quiet. Lily felt Evelyn watching with the intensity of someone observing a chess match. Ethan's jaw tightened. People grow. Circumstances change. Clearly, Victoria's eyes raked over Lily again. "I just think it's interesting that you've chosen someone so different from Sarah." "That's kind of the point," Lily said before she could stop herself. "He's not trying to replace her. He's moving forward." Victoria's smile sharpened. "Of course. I'm sure you're very good at helping him move forward." The implication was clear. Lily felt anger flash through her chest, hot and clarifying. "I'm good at a lot of things," she said evenly, including recognizing when someone's being passive-aggressive under the guise of politeness. "So let's skip the pretense. Whatever issue you have with me or this engagement, just say it." The entire table stared. Ethan looked torn between horror and amusement. Evelyn's expression was unreadable. Victoria's smile didn't waver. "No issue at all. I'm just protective of old friends. I'd hate to see Ethan make a mistake." "Then maybe trust that he's smart enough to make his own decisions," Lily said, "and that those decisions don't require your approval." She could feel Ethan's hand tighten on hers under the table, warning or support, she couldn't tell. Victoria's mask finally cracked, just for a second. Then she recovered, all smooth charm again. "Well, it's clear you can hold your own. That's something, at least." She looked at Ethan. "We should catch up properly while I'm in town. Drinks this week?" "I'll check my schedule," Ethan said neutrally. Victoria walked away, and the table erupted in carefully muted conversation. Lily focused on her water glass, wondering if she'd just blown everything. Then Evelyn laughed. Not a polite chuckle, an actual laugh, sharp and delighted. "Oh, I like you," she said to Lily. Victoria needed someone to put her in her place. She's been circling Ethan like a vulture since Sarah died. "I probably shouldn't have—" "Nonsense, you defended your relationship. That's what a real fiancé would do." Evelyn's smile was approving. "Though next time, perhaps with slightly less volume. We do have standards." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. More conversations, more champagne, more navigating the treacherous waters of people who smiled while calculating your worth. By the time they left, Lily's face hurt from smiling, and her feet hurt from the heels Monica had insisted she wear. In the car, Ethan was quiet for the first 10 minutes. Then he started laughing. "What?" Lily asked. "You told Victoria Ashworth to her face that she was being passive-aggressive, in front of my grandmother, at a charity brunch." "I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have—" "That was the most entertaining thing I've seen in years." He was grinning now, genuine and open. "Do you know how long I've wanted someone to do that? She's been insufferable since we broke up." "You dated her?" "Briefly. Years ago. Before Sarah." His smile faded. She thought we'd get back together after Sarah died. Couldn't understand why I wasn't interested. Because you were grieving. Because I wasn't interested, he corrected. The grief was part of it, but mostly she just wasn't someone I wanted to build a life with. Too focused on appearances, on what people thought. Sarah was the opposite. She didn't care about any of that. They drove in silence for a while. Lily watched the suburbs slide past and thought about Victoria's perfect hair and designer dress, and the way she'd looked at Ethan like he was something she'd lost and wanted back. Your grandmother really liked that I stood up to her, Lily said. My grandmother really liked that you stood up for me. There's a difference. Ethan glanced at her. You keep surprising me. Good or bad? I'm not sure yet. He dropped her back at Monica's just as the sun was setting. Before she could get out, he caught her hand. The engagement party is next Saturday, he said. It's going to be bigger than the brunch. More people, more scrutiny. Victoria will probably be there, along with half of New York society. Are you sure you're okay with this? Too late to back out now. It's not, actually. I can cancel. Tell my grandmother the truth. Deal with the fallout. Lily looked at him, really looked. At the exhaustion in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the way he held himself like someone waiting for the next disaster. I'm not backing out, she said. We have a deal. This is more than what we agreed to. Then pay me more. She smiled to take the edge off. Besides, I'm kind of invested now. I want to see how this plays out. You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. She got out of the car and walked up to Monica's building without looking back, but she could feel Ethan watching until she disappeared inside. Monica took one look at her face and poured wine. That bad? That complicated, Lily said. His ex showed up. His grandmother is planning a huge engagement party, and I think I just made everything worse by having opinions in public. Details. Now, Lily told her everything. Victoria's thinly veiled hostility, her own inability to keep her mouth shut, Evelyn's surprising approval. Monica listened with increasingly wide eyes. Okay, Monica said when she finished. So you're accidentally becoming his real fiancé. No, I'm not. This is still fake. Still temporary. Lily, you met his kid. You went to a charity event. You stood up to his ex-girlfriend. That's not fake fiancé behavior. That's real girlfriend behavior. It's acting. That's all. Keep telling yourself that. Monica topped off Lily's wine. But when this blows up in your face because you caught feelings for a billionaire widower with a cute kid and a manipulative ex, don't say I didn't warn you. It's not going to blow up. Everything blows up eventually. The question is whether you're ready when it does. Lily didn't have an answer to that. She just drank her wine and tried not to think about the engagement party next weekend, or the way Ethan's hand had felt in hers, or the fact that lying was getting easier every day. The scary part wasn't that she was good at pretending to be in love with Ethan Carlisle. The scary part was that she wasn't sure she was pretending anymore. The week before the engagement party crawled by like it was moving through mud. Lily spent her days pretending to job hunt while actually researching everything she could find about Carlisle family history, Connecticut estates, and how to survive in rooms full of people who could smell desperation like sharks smelled blood. Monica helped her practice small talk. They sat on the couch with wine, Monica firing questions while Lily tried not to sound like someone who'd learned everything from Google. So, what does your fiancé's company actually do? Commercial real estate development, with a focus on sustainable urban projects. They also have a growing portfolio in tech investments. And how do you feel about becoming part of such a prominent family? Terrified, also slightly nauseous. Lily, fine, honored, excited, ready to support Ethan in whatever he needs. Better, less honest, but better. The dress arrived on Thursday in a box so large it barely fit through Monica's door. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper like something sacred, was a gown that made Lily's hands shake when she touched it. Deep emerald green, floor length, with a neckline that was elegant without being revealing. The fabric felt like water, shifting and catching light as she lifted it. There was a note tucked inside. My grandmother suggested the color, said it would complement your eyes and make you impossible to ignore. Lily tried it on in Monica's tiny bathroom, struggling with the zipper until her friend came to help. When she finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Oh my God, Monica breathed. You look like you belong in a museum. I look like I'm playing dress up. No, you look like someone who could actually be engaged to a billionaire. Monica adjusted the shoulders. How much did this cost? I don't want to know. I looked up the designer while you were changing. Try not to spill anything on it. This dress costs more than my car. Lily felt sick. The weight of the fabric, the knowledge of its price tag, the reality of what Saturday night meant, it all pressed down on her until she could barely breathe. I can't do this, she said. Yes, you can. No, Mon, I really can't. I'm going to walk into that party and everyone's going to know I'm a fraud. They're going to take one look at me and see exactly what I am. A broke designer from Brooklyn who's way out of her depth. So stop. Monica turned her around, hands firm on her shoulders. You've already survived a dinner with his grandmother and a charity brunch with his ex. You've met his kid and didn't screw that up. You're not a fraud. You're just someone who's scared. And scared is normal. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing or use the wrong fork or then you mess up? So what? You think these people are perfect? They're just better at hiding their mistakes behind money and good tailors. Monica's expression softened. Besides, you're not doing this alone. Ethan will be there. And from what you've told me, he's not going to let you sink. Lily wanted to believe that, but she kept thinking about Victoria's assessing gaze, about the way the board members had watched her like they were waiting for her to fail, about Evelyn's sharp eyes that missed nothing. Friday night, Ethan called, not texted, actually called, which was unusual enough that Lily stared at her phone for 2 rings before answering. Hey, she said. Are you okay? His voice was tight with something that sounded like stress. About tomorrow, I mean, because if you're not, we can still, I'm fine. You're a terrible liar when you're not in person. I'm fine, she repeated more firmly. Just nervous. Join the club. She heard him moving around, footsteps on hardwood. My grandmother has invited 243 people. She's hired a string quartet. There's going to be champagne that costs more per bottle than most people's car payments. And somewhere in the middle of all that, we're supposed to convince everyone that we're madly in love. No pressure. Right. No pressure. He was quiet for a moment. I keep thinking about what you said to Victoria, about me being smart enough to make my own decisions. I shouldn't have said that. It wasn't my place. It was exactly your place. That's what someone who actually cared about me would say. He paused. That's what Sarah would have said. The name hung in the air between them. Ethan rarely mentioned his late wife, and when he did, it was always carefully neutral, like he was trying not to feel too much. I'm sorry, Lily said. I didn't mean to. Don't apologize. It's just strange. Having someone defend me again, I'd forgotten what that felt like. Lily sat on Monica's couch, phone pressed to her ear, and tried to figure out what to say to that. How to acknowledge the loneliness in his voice without making it weird, without crossing the professional boundary that was already blurring at the edges. For what it's worth, she said finally, I think you're doing an incredible job. With Oliver, with the company, with all of it, even if you don't feel like you are. How do you know I don't feel like I am? Because nobody who's actually doing incredible feels like they are. They just feel like they're barely keeping their head above water and hoping nobody notices. He laughed, short and surprised. That's exactly what it feels like. I know. I've been there. They talked for another 20 minutes about nothing important. Oliver's soccer game, the merger timeline, whether the string quartet would play anything written after 1950. It felt normal, easy, like they were actually friends instead of 2 people trapped in an elaborate lie. When they finally hung up, Monica was watching from the kitchen doorway. You're in so much trouble, she said. I know. Saturday arrived too fast. The car came at 4, earlier than Lily expected, but Ethan had texted that morning explaining his grandmother wanted photos before guests arrived. Lily climbed in wearing the green dress and heels that already hurt. Makeup done by a professional Monica had somehow bullied into giving her a discount. The drive to Connecticut took 2 hours. Lily watched the city disappear behind them, replaced by increasingly large houses set back from increasingly pristine roads. By the time they turned onto a private drive lined with old-growth trees, she felt like she'd entered a different world entirely. The Carlisle estate wasn't a house. It was a statement. 3 stories of cream-colored stone, windows that caught the late afternoon sun, grounds that stretched farther than Lily could see. There were actual rose gardens, actual topiaries, an actual fountain in the circular driveway. "This is insane," she muttered. The driver smiled. "Wait until you see the ballroom." Ethan met her at the front door. He wore a tuxedo that had definitely been custom-made, his dark hair finally properly trimmed, looking every inch the billionaire CEO she kept forgetting he was. "You're here," he said, and the relief in his voice was palpable. "Did you think I'd run?" The thought crossed my mind. He took her hand, and Lily felt the slight tremor in his fingers. He was just as nervous as she was. "You look beautiful. The dress is perfect." "Your grandmother has good taste." "My grandmother has terrifying taste. There's a difference." He led her inside through a foyer that could have fit Monica's entire apartment. "She's in the garden room doing final preparations. We have maybe 10 minutes before she descends and starts orchestrating everything." The house was as overwhelming inside as out. High ceilings, crown molding, art that was probably worth more than Lily would make in her lifetime. Staff moved efficiently through hallways, carrying flower arrangements and champagne flutes and covered trays. Ethan pulled her into a small sitting room and closed the door. "I need to tell you something," he said, "before this all starts." Lily's stomach dropped. "What?" "The merger finalized yesterday. Officially signed, board approved, everything locked in." He looked at her directly. "Which means the original reason for all this is done. You've fulfilled your end of the contract. If you want to walk away tonight, I wouldn't blame you." She stared at him. "The merger is done." "Yes." "So this party is just family obligation, grandmother's idea of celebrating, making it official in the eyes of society." He ran a hand through his hair, messing up whatever product had been keeping it in place. "I'm not asking you to leave, but I'm also not asking you to stay for something that's only about appearances. You've already done more than I had any right to expect." Lily thought about the $25,000 already in her account. The other $25,000 she was owed when this ended. The contract that technically didn't require her to attend this party since the business purpose was complete. She also thought about the phone call last night, the way Ethan's voice had sounded when he talked about forgetting what it felt like to have someone defend him. The exhaustion she could see in his eyes even now, standing in this mansion, wearing a tuxedo that cost more than her monthly rent. "I'm staying," she said. "You don't have to." "I know. I'm staying anyway." She adjusted his bow tie, which was slightly crooked. "Besides, I want to see the look on Victoria's face when we walk in together." He smiled, real and grateful. "Thank you." Before either of them could say anything else, the door opened and Evelyn swept in. She wore a gown that probably cost more than a small car. Her silver hair perfectly styled, diamonds at her throat and wrists. "There you are," she said. "The photographer is waiting. We need formal portraits before the guests arrive." The next hour was a blur of posing and adjusting and being told to tilt her head just so while some photographer clicked away. Ethan's hand stayed at her waist, warm and steady, and Lily tried not to think about how natural it felt. They took photos in the garden, on the grand staircase, in the ballroom that was somehow even more impressive than Lily had imagined. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows, a ceiling painted with something classical and probably priceless. "Closer," the photographer directed. "This is an engagement party, not a business meeting. I need to see affection." Ethan pulled Lily closer, and she let herself lean into him. This close, she could smell his cologne, feel the rise and fall of his breathing. "Sorry," he murmured. "I know this is awkward." "It's fine." "Tilt your head up," the photographer called. "Look at each other like you're in love." Lily looked up, meeting Ethan's eyes. Something passed between them. Acknowledgement, maybe, of how far they'd come from that desperate conversation in a restaurant 3 weeks ago. Or maybe just shared anxiety about the night ahead. "Perfect," the photographer said. "That's the one." Guests started arriving at 6. Lily stood beside Ethan in the receiving line, shaking hands and accepting congratulations from an endless stream of faces she'd never remember. Everyone said the same things with minor variations. "What a lovely couple. How romantic. When's the wedding? Have you set a date?" Ethan fielded most of it, his hand never leaving hers, occasionally squeezing in warning when someone particularly difficult approached. "That's Harrison Reed," he murmured, as an older man with steel-gray hair headed their way. "VP of Operations. Hates me. Tolerated my father. Thinks I'm too young to run the company." "The one who looked hostile at dinner?" That's him. Harrison approached with a woman who must have been his wife. Thin, expensive jewelry, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. Ethan, congratulations on the engagement. Harrison's handshake was firm enough to be aggressive. And the merger, of course. Quite a week for you. Thank you, Harrison. This is my fiancée, Lily Harper. Ms. Harper. Harrison's gaze was assessing, dismissive. I don't believe we've met before. What is it you do? Interior design, Lily said. How interesting. Commercial or residential? It was a test. Lily could feel Ethan tense beside her. Both. Though lately I've been focusing more on residential projects. There's something satisfying about creating spaces where people actually live instead of just work. I imagine so. Much smaller scale, of course. Sometimes, but I find that working small means you have to be better. Every choice matters more when you can't hide mistakes behind square footage. Harrison's expression flickered, surprise maybe, or reassessment. An interesting philosophy. Lily's being modest, Ethan said smoothly. She redesigned my home office last month, completely transformed the space. This was news to Lily, but she kept her expression neutral. Just another lie to add to the pile. They moved down the line. More faces, more congratulations, more careful navigation of questions that could trip them up if they weren't careful. Lily's feet hurt and her face hurt, and she was only an hour into this nightmare. Then Victoria arrived. She wore red, bold, attention-grabbing, the kind of dress that demanded you look at her. Her date was tall, handsome in a generic way, clearly selected more for appearance than conversation. Ethan, she purred, air-kissing both his cheeks. What a beautiful party. Your grandmother outdid herself. Victoria, glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it. Her gaze slid to Lily, sharp and calculating. Lily, that dress is lovely. Vera Wang? I'm not sure, Lily lied. She knew exactly who designed it, had looked it up after Monica's comment about the price tag. Well, it suits you. Very sophisticated. The compliment sounded like an insult. You must be excited about joining such a prominent family. I'm excited about marrying Ethan, Lily said evenly. The prominent family is just a bonus. Victoria's smile sharpened. Of course. How romantic. She turned to Ethan. Save me a dance later? For old time's sake? I'll see what I can do. She swept past, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume and tension. I hate her, Lily muttered. Join the club. Ethan's jaw was tight. She does this at every event. Shows up looking perfect, makes pointed comments, reminds everyone that she and I have history. Why do you invite her? I don't. My grandmother does. Old family friends, social obligations, all that. He glanced at Lily. You don't have to be nice to her, you know, despite what my grandmother said about volume. Good, because I wasn't planning on it. By the time the receiving line finally ended, Lily needed a drink and a place to sit down. Ethan guided her to the bar, ordered her champagne and himself a scotch, and they found a quiet corner near the windows. The party was in full swing now. 243 people filling the ballroom, string quartet playing something classical, servers circulating with trays of food that was probably delicious but looked too fancy to eat. You're doing great, Ethan said quietly. I'm dying inside. Well, you're hiding it well. He took a sip of scotch. Another hour of mingling, then dinner, then dancing, then we can probably escape without my grandmother hunting us down. That sounds like a prison sentence. Welcome to my life. They separated to work the room. Ethan's suggestion said it would look more natural if they weren't attached at the hip all night. Lily found herself talking to people whose names she immediately forgot, smiling until her face felt frozen, accepting congratulations for an engagement that wasn't real. She was trapped in conversation with a woman who wouldn't stop talking about her daughter's upcoming wedding when Oliver appeared at her elbow. He wore a small tuxedo that made him look like a miniature adult, his curly hair actually combed flat for once. Hi, he said. Hey, you look very fancy. I hate this outfit. The tie is choking me. He tugged at his collar. Grandma Evelyn said I have to stay for dinner, but then I can go upstairs. Do you want to come see the game room? It has a pool table and everything. I don't think I can leave the party, buddy. Why not? It's boring. Very boring, but sometimes we have to do boring things. Oliver considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. Is that why you're marrying my dad? Because you have to do boring things with him? Lily's heart stuttered. What? No, why would you think that? Marcus's mom got married last year, and she said sometimes you marry people because it makes sense, not because you love them. He looked up at her with those dark eyes that were too wise for six. Is that why? Lily crouched down so they were eye level, not caring if it wrinkled the expensive dress. I'm marrying your dad because I want to, she said. It was the truth, even if the circumstances were a lie. Not because I have to, and definitely not because it makes sense. Do you love him? The question was so direct, so honest, that Lily felt something crack in her chest. She thought about the contract in her purse, about the money in her account, about all the reasons this was supposed to be temporary and fake and uncomplicated. Then she thought about the way Ethan looked at his son, the exhaustion he tried to hide, the phone call last night where he'd sounded so lonely it hurt. Yeah, she heard herself say. I think I do. Oliver's face split into a grin. Good. Dad needs someone who isn't sad all the time. He ran off before Lily could process that, disappearing into the crowd of adults. She stood there in her expensive dress, surrounded by people she didn't know, realizing she'd just admitted something she'd been trying not to think about for weeks. She was in love with Ethan Carlisle. Not fake in love. Not pretend for the contract. Actually, genuinely, stupidly in love with a man who was paying her to pretend. Well, said a voice behind her, that's certainly unexpected. Lily turned to find Evelyn standing there, champagne in hand, expression unreadable. How much did you hear? Lily asked. Enough. Evelyn studied her with those sharp blue eyes. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Lily followed her out of the ballroom, through a hallway lined with family portraits, into a small library that smelled like old books and furniture polish. Evelyn closed the door and turned to face her. I'm going to ask you a question, she said, and I want an honest answer, not what you think I want to hear. Not what's in that contract I know my grandson had drawn up. The truth. Lily's mouth went dry. Okay. Are you in love with Ethan? The room was so quiet Lily could hear her own heartbeat. She thought about lying, about deflecting, about giving some safe non-answer that wouldn't wreck everything. Yes, she said instead. I am. Evelyn nodded slowly. Does he know? No. Are you planning to tell him? No. Why not? Lily laughed, sharp and bitter. Because he hired me to pretend to be his fiancée so his grandmother and his board would think he had his life together. Because there's a contract with an end date and a final payment. Because this was never supposed to be real, and me catching feelings doesn't change the arrangement. So you're just going to walk away when the 6 weeks are up? Take your money and disappear? That's what he's paying me to do. Evelyn set down her champagne glass with deliberate precision. My grandson is an idiot. Excuse me? Brilliant businessman, loving father, absolute idiot when it comes to his own happiness. She moved to the window, looking out at the party visible through the glass. After Sarah died, he shut down, threw himself into work, into raising Oliver, into everything except dealing with his grief. I watched him become a shell of himself. So when he told me he was engaged, I was suspicious. And when I met you, I was certain it was a lie. Then why did you let it continue? Because, for the first time in 2 years, I saw him actually look at someone. Not through them, not past them, at them. Evelyn turned back to face her. Do you know what he told me after that first dinner? He said you argued with him about charity galas and told him his tie was ugly. Said it was the most honest conversation he'd had in months. I shouldn't have. You should have. Because it reminded him that there are people in the world who don't care about his money or his name, who see him as a person instead of a position. Evelyn's expression softened slightly. I've suspected the arrangement from the beginning, but I let it continue because I could see it was good for him, and because I thought, perhaps, it might become real. It can't be real. The contract, tear up the contract. Lily stared at her. What? You heard me. Tear up the contract. Stop thinking of yourself as hired help and start thinking of yourself as the woman my grandson clearly cares about, even if he's too stubborn or scared to admit it. You don't know that I've watched him for 3 weeks. I've seen how he looks at you when you're not paying attention, how he touches the small of your back without thinking, How he smiles more now than he has in 2 years. Evelyn picked up her champagne again. He's falling in love with you, dear. The question is whether you're brave enough to let him. Before Lily could respond, a knock at the door interrupted them. A staff member poked her head in. Mrs. Carlyle, they're ready to start dinner service. Tell them 5 minutes. Evelyn waited until the door closed, then looked at Lily. I'm not telling you to confess your feelings in the middle of the party, but I'm telling you to stop running from them. You have a chance at something real here. Don't throw it away because you're scared. She swept out of the room, leaving Lily alone with her thoughts and her racing heart. Dinner was a formal affair, assigned seating, multiple courses, speeches that went on too long. Lily sat beside Ethan at the head table, hyper-aware of every touch, every glance, every moment where their hands brushed accidentally. Evelyn's words kept echoing in her head. He's falling in love with you. Was he? Or was Evelyn just seeing what she wanted to see, trying to manufacture a happy ending where none existed? Lily watched Ethan give a toast, thanking everyone for coming, thanking his grandmother for organizing everything, thanking Lily for putting up with him. He got laughs in all the right places, played the role perfectly, gave no indication that any of this was anything but genuine. But when he sat back down and his hand found hers under the table, Lily felt his fingers trembling. You okay? She whispered. Ask me again when this is over. After dinner came dancing. The string quartet transitioned to something more upbeat, and couples moved onto the floor. Ethan stood, offered his hand. May I? Lily let him lead her out. His hand settled at her waist, hers on his shoulder, and they fell into an easy rhythm. He was a good dancer, probably had lessons as a kid, along with all the other things rich children learned. You're quiet, he said after a moment. Just thinking. About? Everything. Nothing. The fact that she was dancing with a man she'd fallen in love with at a party, celebrating a fake engagement. The contract sitting in her purse. The money in her account. The 6-year-old who'd asked if she loved his dad. About how surreal this all is, she said finally. Tell me about it. 3 weeks ago I was panicking in a restaurant. Now I'm dancing with my fake fiancé at a party my grandmother threw while 200 people congratulate me on a relationship that doesn't exist. Something in his tone made Lily look up. He was staring at some point over her shoulder, jaw tight, expression carefully neutral. Ethan. Victoria's watching, he said quietly. Probably waiting for me to make good on that dance I said I'd consider. Do you want to dance with her? No, but if I don't, she'll make it a thing. She's good at that. The song ended. Another began, slower this time. Ethan didn't let go. One more? He asked. Sure. They swayed in silence for a while. Lily could feel people watching, probably commenting on how sweet they looked together, how in love, what a perfect couple. If only they knew. I need to tell you something, Ethan said suddenly. Lily's heart jumped. What? The contract, the engagement, all of this. He took a breath. It's gotten complicated. I know. No, I don't think you do. He pulled back slightly so he could look at her. When I hired you, it was supposed to be simple. 6 weeks of pretending, everyone gets what they want, we go our separate ways, but it's not simple anymore. Ethan, let me finish, please. His eyes were dark, intense. You've been amazing, better than I had any right to expect. You're kind to Oliver, you held your own with my grandmother, you stood up to Victoria when you didn't have to, and somewhere in all of that I stopped thinking of you as someone I hired and started thinking of you as someone I... Ethan! Victoria appeared beside them, smile bright and predatory. You promised me a dance. I'm here to collect. Ethan's jaw tightened. Victoria, I'm in the middle of... I'm sure your fiancé won't mind sharing you for one song. She looked at Lily, challenge clear in her eyes. You don't mind, do you? Lily wanted to mind. Wanted to tell Victoria to back off, that Ethan was hers even if it was fake, that whatever he'd been about to say was more important than a dance with his ex. But they were surrounded by people, and making a scene would draw exactly the kind of attention they didn't need. Of course not, Lily said, stepping back. I should check on Oliver anyway. She walked away before either of them could stop her, heart pounding, Ethan's half-finished confession echoing in her head. Someone what? Someone he what? She found Oliver in the game room upstairs, playing pool badly with one of the staff members' teenage sons. He looked up when she came in. "Did you escape too?" "Something like that." She sat on one of the leather couches and watched them play, trying not to think about Ethan dancing with Victoria downstairs, trying not to imagine what he'd been about to say. 20 minutes later, Ethan appeared in the doorway. "There you are," he said. "I've been looking for you." "Well, you found me." He sent the teenagers away with some cash and a suggestion they get food from the kitchen. Then he sat beside Lily, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I'm sorry about Victoria," he said. "She cornered me and wouldn't let go. Spent the entire dance asking invasive questions about our relationship and trying to poke holes in our story." "Did she succeed?" "Almost. She asked when I proposed, and I blanked for a second because I couldn't remember what we'd told people." He ran a hand through his hair. "This is getting too complicated. Too many lies to keep track of." "Then maybe we should simplify it." "How?" Lily took a breath, Evelyn's words still ringing in her ears. "Tear up the contract. Stop thinking of yourself as hired help." "We could tell the truth," she said quietly. Ethan went very still. "What?" "The truth. That this started as a business arrangement. That you hired me because you were desperate and I was broke and we made a deal." She looked at him. "But that somewhere along the way it stopped being fake." The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they weren't saying. "Lily," Ethan said finally, What are you—" "I'm saying that I don't want to pretend anymore. I don't want to memorize stories about how we met or practice answers to questions about our future. I don't want to stand in rooms full of people and lie about caring about you when the truth is—" She stopped, courage faltering. "When the truth is what?" His voice was barely a whisper. "When the truth is I do care. For real. Not because you're paying me. Not because it's in the contract, just because—" She forced herself to meet his eyes. "Because you're kind and exhausted and doing your best with an impossible situation. Because you love your son more than anything. Because you trusted me when you had no reason to. Because I—" Ethan kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, like he'd been holding back for weeks and finally couldn't anymore. His hands cupped her face, and Lily kissed him back with everything she hadn't let herself feel until now. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ethan pressed his forehead to hers. "I was trying to tell you earlier," he said, before Victoria interrupted, "that this stopped being fake for me weeks ago. That every time I touch you or look at you or hear you laugh, I have to remind myself that you're just doing a job. Except I don't think you are anymore." "Are you?" "No," Lily whispered. "I'm not." "Then tear up the contract." "What?" "The contract, the payments, all of it." He pulled back enough to look at her. "I don't want to pay you to be with me. I want you to be with me because you want to be. For real this time. Ethan, the money, keep what I already gave you. I don't care about the money. I care about you." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Tell me you want this. Tell me I'm not imagining that you feel it too." Lily thought about the contract in her purse, about the final payment she'd been counting on, about Monica's warnings and Evelyn's knowing looks and everything that could go wrong. Then she thought about Oliver asking if she loved his dad, about Ethan's hand trembling in hers during dinner, about 3 weeks of pretending that had somehow become the most real thing in her life. "I want this," she said. "I want you. For real." He kissed her again, softer this time, and Lily felt something settle in her chest. Relief, maybe. Or just the simple rightness of finally being honest. They stayed in the game room for another 10 minutes, kissing like teenagers, whispering plans for how to handle the rest of the night. Eventually they'd have to go back downstairs, face the party, navigate the rest of the evening. But for now, in this quiet room away from the crowds and the scrutiny, they could just be two people who'd found each other in the wreckage of desperate circumstances. When they finally returned to the ballroom, hand in hand, Evelyn caught Lily's eye across the room. She raised her champagne glass slightly. Approval or acknowledgement or maybe just satisfaction at a plan come together. Lily smiled back and let Ethan pull her onto the dance floor. This time when they swayed to the music, there was no pretending, no calculating what looked convincing, just two people holding each other while everyone watched and assumed they knew the whole story. They didn't know the half of it, but that was okay. Some truths were better kept private. Victoria cornered Lily in the bathroom 20 minutes later. Lily had been washing her hands, still floating from the conversation upstairs, from Ethan's kiss, from the weight of the contract finally lifted. She was drying her hands on a towel that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget when Victoria emerged from one of the stalls. "Well," Victoria said, reapplying lipstick in the mirror, "you certainly have everyone fooled." Lily's stomach tightened. "Excuse me?" The sweet girl from nowhere who swept Ethan off his feet. "It's a good performance. Very convincing." Victoria capped her lipstick and turned, leaning against the marble counter. "But I've known Ethan since we were 12, and I know when he's lying. He's not lying. Please. 2 months ago, he told me he'd never get married again. Said he was too busy, too focused on Oliver, that he didn't have room in his life for a relationship. Then suddenly you appear and he's engaged? It doesn't add up." Lily thought about walking out, about ignoring Victoria and going back to the party, back to Ethan, back to the reality they'd just decided to build together. But something in Victoria's voice stopped her. Not just jealousy or bitterness, genuine concern mixed with the hostility. "What do you want?" Lily asked. "I want to know what your angle is. Because women don't just fall into Ethan Carlisle's life by accident. Not women like you. Women like me. Poor, unknown, conveniently available when he needed someone." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "How much is he paying you?" Lily's breath caught. "What?" "Don't play dumb. I've seen this before. Desperate men making desperate choices. Ethan needed to look stable for the merger, needed his grandmother off his back, so he found someone willing to play the part. The question is whether you're smart enough to know when to walk away." "You don't know anything about us. I know Ethan. I know he'd do anything for his company, for his son, for his family legacy. I know he's been running on empty for 2 years and he's finally starting to crack." Victoria's expression shifted, something almost like sympathy bleeding through. "And I know that when this falls apart, and it will fall apart, you're going to be the one who gets hurt, not him. He has money, lawyers, a family who'll protect him. What do you have?" The words hit harder than Lily wanted to admit, because Victoria was right about some of it. Until an hour ago, this had been a business transaction. Until upstairs in the game room, Lily had been exactly what Victoria accused her of being, someone getting paid to play a part. But that wasn't what this was anymore. "I have someone who chose me," Lily said quietly. "Not because I'm convenient or useful or playing a role, because he wants me here." "Does he? Or does he want what you represent? The idea of moving on, the appearance of having his life together?" Victoria picked up her clutch. "I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to save you from getting destroyed when reality sets in. Ethan lives in a different world than you. Eventually, he's going to realize that." She left, heels clicking on marble, and Lily stood alone in the bathroom trying to steady her breathing. The thing was, Victoria had voiced every fear that had been lurking in the back of Lily's mind since this started. The wealth gap, the social divide, the fact that Ethan's life was so far removed from hers that they might as well be from different planets. But she'd also felt the way he kissed her, heard the desperation in his voice when he asked her to tear up the contract, seen the look in his eyes when she said she wanted this for real. That hadn't been fake. She'd stake everything on it not being fake. Lily fixed her makeup, squared her shoulders, and went back to the party. Ethan was talking to Harrison Reed and 2 other board members near the windows. He caught her eye across the room, and his whole face softened, a private smile meant just for her. Victoria was wrong. She had to be. The party finally wound down around midnight. Guests started trickling out, calling for cars, making their goodbyes. Lily's feet were screaming in her heels and her face hurt from smiling, but she stayed by Ethan's side, playing the role one last time. Except it wasn't a role anymore, was it? Evelyn was one of the last to leave, though technically she lived here, so leaving meant retreating to her private wing rather than actually departing. "Well done, both of you," she said, kissing Ethan's cheek. Then she pulled Lily aside, voice low. "I assume you took my advice?" "We talked. Decided to make it real." "Good. Don't let him sabotage it. He's very good at that." Evelyn's eyes were knowing. "And don't let people like Victoria poison what you're building. She means well in her own twisted way, but she doesn't understand what Ethan needs. And you do. I understand that he's been half alive for 2 years, and that since you appeared, I've seen glimpses of the man he used to be." She patted Lily's arm. "Hold on to that, even when it gets hard. She swept away, leaving Lily to wonder what exactly she meant by when it gets hard. Ethan found her a few minutes later. Ready to go? Oliver fell asleep an hour ago. I had one of the staff put him in the guest room upstairs. Should we wake him? Probably not. He's impossible when he's overtired. Ethan looked around the now empty ballroom at the remnants of the party. We could stay here tonight. There are plenty of rooms. Or I can have the driver take you back to Brooklyn if you'd rather. I'll stay, Lily said. Something in Ethan's expression shifted. Relief, maybe, or just exhaustion finally showing through. They collected Oliver from upstairs. He barely stirred as Ethan carried him to a different bedroom. And then Ethan led Lily down a hallway to a room that was probably meant for important guests. There's a bathroom through there, he said, setting down the small overnight bag someone had apparently packed for her. I'm 2 doors down if you need anything. Okay? He hesitated at the door. About earlier, in the game room. I meant what I said. I know. Do you? Because I don't want you to wake up tomorrow and think that was just the champagne talking or the pressure of the party or... Lily crossed the room and kissed him, effectively shutting him up. When she pulled back, he was smiling. Okay, he said. Message received. Good. Now go to sleep. You look exhausted. I am exhausted. This night aged me about 5 years. He left, and Lily got ready for bed in a bathroom that was bigger than Monica's living room. She washed off the makeup, changed into the pajamas someone had thoughtfully packed, and climbed into a bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. But sleep didn't come easily. Her mind kept replaying the night, Victoria's warnings, Evelyn's knowing looks, Ethan's kiss in the game room, the contract she'd agreed to tear up, the life she was stepping into that she still didn't fully understand. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, her phone buzzed. Text from Monica. How was the party? Did you survive? Lily typed back. Survived. Also maybe fell in love for real and agreed to tear up the contract and actually date him. The response came immediately. What followed by, call me tomorrow, need details. Also, you're insane. I know. But happy insane? Lily thought about it. Despite Victoria's warnings and her own lingering fears and the sheer impossibility of making this work long-term, she was happy. Yeah, happy insane. She finally fell asleep around 3 and woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to close. Her phone said 9:30, later than she'd slept in months. There was a note slipped under her door. Come down to the kitchen when you're ready. Oliver wants pancakes and I need coffee before attempting them. Lily showered, changed into jeans and a sweater from the overnight bag, and made her way downstairs. The house was quieter in daylight, less overwhelming. She could hear voices from the kitchen and followed the sound. Ethan stood at the stove, spatula in hand, hair still damp from a shower. Oliver sat at the island in his pajamas, chattering about something while swinging his legs. And then Marcus said his dog can do backflips, but I don't believe him because Biscuit can barely catch a ball, and he's supposed to be a retriever. Oliver spotted Lily, and his face lit up. Lily, Dad's making pancakes, but they're kind of lumpy. They're not lumpy, Ethan protested. They're rustic. That's what you said last time, and they were definitely lumpy. Lily slid onto a stool next to Oliver. I'm sure they're perfect. You haven't tasted them yet. Ethan flipped a pancake. It was admittedly a bit lumpy, and shot her a look that said, welcome to my life. It felt domestic in a way that should have been scary. A week ago, Lily had been sleeping on Monica's couch, scraping by on unemployment and hope. Now she was in a mansion in Connecticut, watching a billionaire make imperfect pancakes for his kid. The whiplash was intense, but it also felt right in a way she couldn't quite explain. They ate breakfast together. The pancakes were lumpy but good, and then Oliver dragged them outside to explore the grounds. The estate had trails, a pond, actual woods. Oliver ran ahead with a stick he'd designated as a sword, fighting invisible enemies. He has so much energy, Lily said, watching him leap over a log. Tell me about it. Some days I think about hiring someone just to run around with him until he's tired enough to sit still. They walked in comfortable silence for a bit. The morning was cool, crisp, the kind of fall day that made you forget winter was coming. So, Ethan said eventually, we should probably talk about what happens next. You mean now that we're not faking it? Yeah, that. He shoved his hands in his pockets. The contract had an end date, 6 weeks. We're at almost 4 now. If we're doing this for real, we need to figure out what that actually means. Lily had been trying not to think about the logistics, about the fact that she was still technically living on Monica's couch, that her bank account had money in it, but no job prospects, that Ethan's life was so far removed from hers that bridging the gap felt impossible. I don't know, she admitted. This is kind of uncharted territory. We could take it slow. Keep seeing each other, let Oliver get used to you being around, see how it feels without the pressure of the fake engagement. Except everyone thinks we're engaged. Your grandmother threw a party with 200 people. We can't just quietly walk that back. Why not? We tell people we decided to slow down, focus on getting to know each other better before rushing into marriage. It's not that unusual. Your grandmother is going to kill you. Probably, but she'll get over it. He caught her hand, threading their fingers together. I don't want to keep pretending. Not with you. If we're going to do this, I want it to be honest. Even if people judge us, think I'm a gold digger or you're having a midlife crisis, let them think what they want. I stopped caring about that a long time ago. Oliver came running back, breathless and pink-cheeked. Can we go see Biscuit? Grandma Evelyn said he's in her wing and I miss him. Sure, buddy. Let's go find him. They spent the rest of the morning at the estate, found Biscuit, a golden retriever who was indeed very dumb but very sweet, and played fetch until the dog got distracted by a squirrel. Had lunch in Evelyn's private dining room, where she asked pointed questions about their plans while pretending to be casual. So you're staying engaged? She asked, passing the salad bowl. We're figuring it out, Ethan said carefully. Figuring it out. How modern. Evelyn's eyes sparkled with something that might have been amusement. In my day, you were either engaged or you weren't. None of this figuring it out nonsense. In your day, you also didn't have smartphones or the internet, Ethan pointed out. True, we had to ruin our relationships face to face like civilized people. Lily nearly choked on her water. Evelyn smiled at her, all innocence. They drove back to the city in the late afternoon. Oliver fell asleep in the back seat, and Lily watched the landscape change from estates to suburbs to the familiar chaos of Manhattan. You're quiet, Ethan said. Just thinking. About? Everything. The fact that she needed to tell Monica the full story, that she had to figure out what she was actually doing with her life now that the contract was void, that Ethan's world and hers were going to collide in ways she couldn't predict. About how we make this work, she said. Practically, I mean. You live in the Upper East Side. I live on Monica's couch in Brooklyn. You're a CEO. I'm unemployed. The math doesn't exactly add up. So we make new math. That's not how math works. You know what I mean? He glanced at her. Move in with me. Lily's heart stuttered. What? Move in. You said yourself you're on Monica's couch. I have 4 bedrooms. It makes sense. Ethan, we've been really together for less than 24 hours. Moving in is fast, I know, but we've also been living in each other's pockets for almost a month. It's not like we don't know each other. He paused. And honestly, I don't want you to leave. Lily looked at him, at the careful way he was holding the steering wheel, the tension in his shoulders that suggested he was afraid she'd say no. I need to think about it, she said. Okay, not because I don't want to, just because you don't have to explain. Take whatever time you need. But Lily could see the disappointment he was trying to hide, and it made her chest ache. They dropped Oliver at home first, Ethan's actual brownstone, not the Connecticut estate. Oliver hugged Lily goodbye and made her promise to come to his soccer game on Tuesday. Then Ethan drove her back to Brooklyn. Monica was waiting when Lily walked in, laptop open, clearly having spent the day researching. Okay, she said before Lily could even take off her coat. Tell me everything, from the beginning, and don't leave anything out. Lily told her. About the kiss in the game room, the conversation about making it real, Victoria's bathroom ambush, Evelyn's knowing approval. About Ethan asking her to move in, and her complete inability to know if that was crazy or just the next logical step. Monica listened without interrupting, which was unusual enough to be alarming. So, she said when Lily finished, you're in love with him. Yeah. And he's in love with you. I think so. He said he wanted this to be real. That's basically the same thing. It's really not, but okay. Monica closed her laptop. Are you going to move in with him? I don't know. Is that insane? We barely know each other outside of the fake engagement. You know him well enough to fall in love with him. That's different. How? Good question. Lily flopped onto the couch, her temporary bed for the last few months, and stared at the ceiling. What if Victoria's right? She said quietly. What if the only reason he thinks he wants this is because I'm convenient? Because I was there when he needed someone, and now he's confusing gratitude with actual feelings? Is that what you think? I don't know what I think. This whole thing happened so fast. One minute I was drowning in my own life, and the next I'm engaged to a billionaire. Now it's supposedly real, and I'm supposed to just trust that? Monica sat beside her. Lily, you're looking for reasons to sabotage this. I'm being realistic. You're being scared. There's a difference. Monica took her hand. Look, I don't know Ethan. I've never met him, but I know you. And I've watched you be miserable for months, broke, unemployed, convinced you'd somehow failed at life. Then this guy shows up and suddenly you're smiling again. You're lighter. You're you again. That's just the money, the security, is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been happy since before the money hit your account. Since that first night when you came home and told me about meeting his grandmother. Lily wanted to argue, but Monica was right. The money had helped. Of course it had. But the happiness had started before that. Started with Ethan trusting her, with Oliver showing her his Lego city, with feeling like she mattered to someone again. So what do I do? She asked. You decide if you trust him, and if you do, you take the leap. Move in, see what happens, stop waiting for disaster. Monica squeezed her hand. Or you run. Keep the money, walk away, go back to your life. Both options are valid, but you have to pick one. Lily spent the rest of Sunday thinking about it. Called Ethan that night and talked for 2 hours about nothing important. Oliver's homework, a client Ethan was meeting with, whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It felt normal, easy, like they'd been doing this for years instead of weeks. Monday morning, Lily made her decision. She texted Ethan, Okay, I'll move in, but we're doing this right. I'm paying rent or contributing somehow. I'm not a charity case. His response came immediately. How about you help with Oliver? Pick him up from school sometimes, help with homework, be there when I'm stuck in meetings. That's worth more to me than rent. Deal. When can you move? Lily looked around Monica's apartment, at the couch she'd been sleeping on, at her stuff crammed into 2 suitcases and some boxes in the corner. Today, I'll send the car. Monica helped her pack, which didn't take long since Lily didn't own much. They'd been roommates before, years ago, and Monica had rescued her again when everything fell apart. Saying goodbye felt bigger than it should have. You sure about this? Monica asked, taping up a box. No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's my girl. Monica pulled her into a hug. Call me if it goes sideways. You always have a place here. I know. Thank you for everything. Just invite me over sometime. I want to see this brownstone and judge all his furniture choices. The car arrived at noon. Lily loaded her pathetically small collection of belongings and climbed in, feeling like she was leaving one life and stepping into another. Ethan met her at the door. He'd clearly left work early, still in a suit, tie loosened, looking tired but happy. Hey, he said. Hey, this is crazy, right? You moving in? Completely insane. Want to back out? Lily looked past him into the house. Warm lighting, comfortable furniture, signs of life everywhere. She could hear music playing from somewhere upstairs, probably Oliver's room. No, she said. I don't. Ethan helped her carry boxes upstairs to the guest room. Her room, he'd said, until she was ready to share his. The space was bigger than any apartment Lily had ever lived in, with an attached bathroom and a closet that could fit her entire wardrobe 3 times over. It's too much, she said. It's just a room. It's bigger than my last apartment. Then you had a very small apartment. He set down the last box. I have to pick up Oliver from school in 20 minutes. Want to come? Yeah, okay. They walked to the private school a few blocks away, because of course Oliver went to private school, and waited outside with other parents and nannies. Lily felt distinctly out of place in her jeans and sweater, while everyone else looked like they'd stepped out of a catalog. But then Oliver came barreling out, backpack bouncing, and his whole face lit up when he saw her. Lily, Dad didn't say you were coming. Surprise? Are you staying for dinner? Dad's making spaghetti, and he's terrible at it, but it's still good. I'm actually staying for more than dinner, Lily said, glancing at Ethan. Oliver's eyes went wide. You're moving in. Yeah, is that okay? He threw his arms around her waist, squeezing tight. That's awesome. Over his head, Lily met Ethan's eyes. He was smiling, soft and grateful, and for a moment everything felt right. They walked home together, Oliver chattering about his day, and Lily let herself believe that maybe this could work, that maybe she deserved this second chance at happiness. That night, after dinner, Oliver was right. The spaghetti was terrible but good, and homework and bedtime stories. Lily and Ethan sat in the living room with wine. So, Ethan said, first day of cohabitation. How does it feel? Surreal. Good. Terrifying. Yeah, that about sums it up. He took a sip of wine. There's something I need to tell you. About the contract. Lily's stomach tightened. What about it? I didn't just tear it up. I mean, I did, but I also transferred the second payment, the final $25,000. It hit your account this morning. Ethan, you earned it. You did everything we agreed to, and more. The money is yours regardless of what happens between us now. But if we're doing this for real, then the money has nothing to do with that. It was a business agreement. You fulfilled your end. I'm fulfilling mine. He met her eyes. I don't want you to ever think you're with me because of money or obligation. The account is yours. If this doesn't work out, if you decide to leave, you walk away with what we agreed on. Lily didn't know what to say. The money meant security, meant breathing room, meant she could figure out her life without panic. But it also felt wrong somehow, taking payment for something that had become real. Thank you, she said finally. Don't thank me. You earned every penny dealing with my grandmother and Victoria and that whole circus. They sat in silence for a while, the kind of comfortable quiet that came from being with someone who didn't need constant conversation. Can I ask you something? Lily said eventually. Sure. What did you mean earlier when you started to say something at the party? Before Victoria interrupted? Ethan set down his wine glass. I was going to tell you that I'd stopped thinking of you as someone I hired, that you'd become someone I... He stopped, searching for words. Someone I needed. Not for the merger or my grandmother or appearances, just for me. And now I'm trying not to screw this up by moving too fast or saying too much. He looked at her. I'm not good at this, Lily. I was with Sarah for 8 years, and before that, I barely dated. I don't know how to do the casual thing, the taking it slow thing. I just know that I want you here, and I'm terrified you're going to wake up one day and realize you can do better. Lily moved closer, taking his hand. I'm not going anywhere. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'm here now. That I want to be here. That's enough to start with, isn't it? Ethan pulled her close, and they sat like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet house while Oliver slept upstairs and the city hummed outside. It wasn't perfect. Lily still had fears, still heard Victoria's warnings echoing in her head, still sometimes woke up and couldn't believe this was her life now. But it was real, messy and complicated and real. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. The first real fight happened 3 weeks after Lily moved in. She'd spent the afternoon with Oliver, helping him build a new section of his Lego city while Ethan worked late at the office. Around 7, she'd started making dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and sauce, when Ethan came home looking like he'd been through a war. Rough day? She asked. Harrison's pushing back on the new development project. Says the timeline's too aggressive, the environmental impact studies aren't thorough enough. He loosened his tie, poured himself a scotch. I've been working on this for 6 months. Everything's solid. He's just looking for reasons to undermine me. Can you push it through anyway? Not without grandmother's vote. And she's been non-committal. He drained half the glass. Sometimes I think they're all just waiting for me to fail so they can say I was never ready to run the company. Lily wanted to comfort him, but Oliver chose that moment to come downstairs asking about dinner. 20 minutes, buddy, Lily said. Can we eat in the living room? There's a show I want to watch. Not tonight. We're eating at the table. Oliver's face fell. But Dad always lets me... Oliver, Lily said no. Ethan's voice was sharper than necessary. Go wash your hands. Oliver left, shoulders slumped, and Lily turned to Ethan. You didn't have to snap at him. I didn't snap. Yes, you did. He just asked a question. And you answered it. I was backing you up. Ethan set down his glass too hard. What's the problem? The problem is you're taking your bad day out on your kid. I'm not. He stopped, jaw tight. You've been here 3 weeks. Don't tell me how to parent my son. The words landed like a slap. Lily felt her face flush hot. You're right, she said quietly. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. She turned back to the stove, stirring sauce that didn't need stirring, trying to swallow the hurt. Ethan didn't apologize, just refilled his scotch and disappeared into his office. Dinner was tense. Oliver picked up on the atmosphere and got quiet, which made everything worse. Lily tried to keep conversation going, asking about his day, his homework, anything. But it all felt forced. After Oliver went to bed, Lily found Ethan still in his office, staring at his laptop. I'm going to Monica's tonight, she said from the doorway. He looked up, surprised. What? Why? Because we need space. Because you're angry and I'm hurt and I don't want to make it worse. Lily, I didn't mean, I know, but you said it anyway. She grabbed her jacket from the hook. I'll be back tomorrow. We can talk then. Don't leave, please. I was an asshole. I'm sorry. I know you're sorry. I also know you meant what you said about me being here 3 weeks and not knowing how to parent Oliver. She met his eyes. And you're right. I don't. But that doesn't mean I don't care about him or that I'm wrong when I see you taking your stress out on him. I wasn't. Yes, you were. And you know it. Lily softened slightly. Look, I get that you're under pressure. I get that running a company and raising a kid alone is impossible, but I can't be here if every time you have a bad day you're going to shut me out or remind me I'm not really part of this family. Ethan stood, crossing to her. You are part of this family. Then treat me like it. Let me help. Let me be here for the bad days, not just the good ones. She touched his face. I'm not going to break, Ethan. I'm not Sarah. I'm not going to leave you because things get hard. His expression crumpled. That's what I'm afraid of, that you'll realize how hard it is and decide it's not worth it. The only thing that would make me leave is you pushing me away. She kissed him softly. I'm still going to Monica's tonight. Not because I'm leaving, but because we both need to cool down, okay? Okay. She stayed at Monica's apartment, sleeping on the familiar couch, trying not to second-guess everything. Monica listened to the whole story over wine and takeout. So he's scared you're going to leave, so he's pushing you away to protect himself, Monica summarized. Classic self-sabotage. I know, but knowing why he's doing it doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't, but it does mean it's fixable. Monica refilled their glasses. You just have to decide if you want to fix it. Lily went back the next morning. Ethan was making pancakes, less lumpy this time, while Oliver did homework at the kitchen island. You came back, Ethan said quietly. I told you I would. I know, I still wasn't sure. He flipped a pancake. I talked to my therapist this morning, emergency session. She said I'm projecting my fear of loss onto you and creating the exact situation I'm afraid of. That sounds expensive and accurate. Very expensive, moderately helpful. He plated the pancakes and handed one to Oliver, who'd been watching them cautiously. Buddy, I'm sorry about last night. I was stressed about work and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. Oliver shrugged, the way kids do when they're hurt but don't want to admit it. It's okay. It's not okay. I shouldn't have done it. Ethan ruffled his hair. Forgive me? Yeah, can I eat in the living room tonight? We'll see. Oliver grinned and went back to his homework, crisis apparently forgotten with the resilience only kids have. Ethan turned to Lily. And I'm sorry to you for what I said, for shutting you out, for being terrified that you're going to wake up and realize you made a mistake. I'm not going to eat. You might, and that's okay. What's not okay is me pushing you away because I'm scared. He took her hands. I want this to work. I want you here, but I'm going to mess up sometimes. I'm going to get stressed and say things I don't mean and forget that I'm not doing this alone anymore. I know. I'm going to mess up too. I'm going to overstep with Oliver or not understand the pressure you're under or want to fix things I can't fix. She squeezed his hands. But we have to promise to talk about it, not shut down or run away. Actually talk. Deal. They kissed, and Oliver made a disgusted noise from across the room. Gross. I'm trying to eat. The second crisis came from an unexpected direction. Lily had been living with Ethan for almost 2 months when she ran into one of her old colleagues from the design firm. They were at a coffee shop near Oliver's school, and Rebecca, formerly a junior designer, now apparently running her own projects, spotted her. Lily Harper, oh my God, I heard you were engaged to Ethan Carlisle. Is that true? Yeah, it's true. That's insane. How did that even happen? Rebecca's expression was friendly but curious in a way that felt invasive. I mean, no offense, but you two seem like you're from totally different worlds. We are, but it works. I'm sure. Must be nice not having to worry about money anymore. I'm still hustling for every client. She laughed, but it sounded bitter. Some of us get rescued by billionaires. Some of us have to actually work. The words stung more than they should have, because there was truth in them, wasn't there? Lily had been struggling, and Ethan had offered a way out. The fact that it had become real didn't change how it started. It's not like that, Lily said. Sure, I'm happy for you, really. Rebecca grabbed her coffee. Good luck with everything. She left, and Lily sat there feeling like she'd been slapped. That night, she couldn't shake it. The implication that she'd taken the easy way out, that she was living off Ethan's money instead of building her own life. You're quiet, Ethan said at dinner. Just thinking. About? Lily set down her fork. I want to get a job. Ethan blinked. Okay, you don't need my permission for that. I know. But I wanted to tell you because I've been basically unemployed since we met, and I don't want you to think I'm with you for the money or the security or… Lily, I've never thought that. Other people do. I ran into Rebecca today, and she basically implied I got rescued by a rich man, and now I'm just coasting. Rebecca sounds like an asshole. She's not wrong, though. I haven't worked in months. I'm living in your house, helping with your kid, but I don't have anything that's mine. Ethan was quiet for a moment. What do you want to do? I don't know. Design work, maybe. But actually working for it this time, not just taking your money. You're not taking my money. You're living here. That's different. Is it? Because from the outside, it looks like I'm a kept woman playing house. And from the inside, Lily thought about it. From the inside, she was helping raise Oliver, managing the household, being a partner to someone who needed one. But Rebecca's words had gotten under her skin. From the inside, I want to contribute, not just emotionally, but practically. She met his eyes. I need to feel like I'm building something, not just living in something you built. Okay, then let's figure it out. What would make you happy? Over the next week, Lily started reaching out to old contacts, updating her portfolio, looking for freelance work. It was harder than she expected. She'd been out of the game for months, and the industry moved fast. But then Monica sent her a lead. A friend of a friend needed someone to redesign a boutique hotel in Brooklyn. Small project, modest budget, but it was hers. Lily threw herself into it. Spent days measuring spaces, sketching layouts, sourcing materials. It felt good to use her brain for something other than managing household logistics and Oliver's homework schedule. Ethan was supportive but distant. He gave her space to work, didn't ask too many questions, seemed almost relieved that she had something of her own, which should have been good, but it also felt like he was pulling away. 3 weeks into the hotel project, Lily came home late to find Ethan already asleep. She'd been meeting with the client, running over budget numbers, losing track of time. This was the third night this week she'd missed dinner. The next morning, Oliver asked why she hadn't been around. I'm working on a project, buddy. It's taking up a lot of time. Is it more important than us? The question hit her like a truck. No, of course not. Then why are you always gone? She didn't have a good answer. Because the truth was complicated. She'd been so focused on proving she wasn't just living off Ethan's money that she'd overcorrected, thrown herself into work the same way he did. That night, she turned down a client meeting and came home for dinner. Oliver's face lit up when he saw her, and Ethan looked relieved in a way that made her realize how much her absence had affected them. I'm sorry, she said after Oliver went to bed. I've been so focused on the project that I forgot why I wanted it in the first place. You wanted to feel like you were contributing. Right, but I was contributing before, just in different ways. She sat beside him on the couch. I think I was so worried about being seen as someone who married rich and gave up that I forgot to ask if that's what I actually wanted. What do you want? Lily thought about it. The hotel project was satisfying, but it also meant long hours, difficult clients, the same stress she'd been running from when she lost her last job. I want balance. Work that matters but doesn't consume me. Time with you and Oliver. A life that's mine, but also ours. She took his hand. I don't think I can do the 60-hour week thing anymore. I tried it before and it broke me. So don't. Finish the hotel project, then take on smaller clients. Set your own hours. Work from home when you can. Ethan pulled her close. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not to Rebecca, not to the people who think you're a gold digger, not even to yourself. It feels like I do. I know, but you don't. He kissed her forehead. You're here because we love you. Me and Oliver. That's enough. The third and final crisis came from Evelyn. She called Ethan one Tuesday afternoon and demanded they all come to Connecticut for the weekend. Not requested, demanded in the way only Evelyn could. They drove up on Saturday morning. Oliver had been promised time with Biscuit, so he was excited. Ethan was tense in a way that suggested this wasn't a social call. What do you think she wants? Lily asked. Knowing my grandmother? To meddle, lecture, or both? They arrived to find Evelyn waiting in the garden room, tea service already laid out. Sit, she said without preamble. They sat. Oliver was dispatched to find Biscuit. When they were alone, Evelyn looked at Ethan with the expression of someone about to deliver bad news. I'm selling my shares of the company. Ethan went white. What? I'm 83 years old. I've been on that board for 40 years. It's time. Who are you selling to? That depends. I'm offering you first refusal. If you can put together the capital in the next 30 days, they're yours. If not, I'm accepting Harrison Reed's offer. Harrison? Ethan's voice was flat. You're selling to Harrison. Only if you can't match his price, which is substantial. How substantial? Evelyn named a figure that made Lily's stomach drop. It was more money than she could conceptualize. I don't have that kind of liquidity, Ethan said. Not in 30 days. Then you'll have to get creative. Investors, loans, whatever it takes. Evelyn's expression softened slightly. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing this to force you to decide what you really want. The company or the life you've been building with this young woman? That's not fair. Life isn't fair, but it does require choices. She looked at Lily. You've been good for him, I see that. But you're also a distraction. He's been less focused, less driven, more present with Oliver, yes, but less engaged with the business. That's not true, Ethan said. Isn't it? When was the last time you stayed late at the office? Took a work call on Sunday? Traveled for a deal? Evelyn stirred her tea. You used to live for that company. Now you live for them. Which is lovely and healthy and absolutely what I wanted. But it also means you might not be willing to do what it takes to buy my shares. So this is a test. This is a choice. The company has been your life since Sarah died. Maybe even before. Now you have an opportunity for a different life, a partner, a family, balance. But you can't have both. Not at the level required to outbid Harrison. They drove back to the city in silence. Oliver fell asleep in the back, and Lily watched Ethan's hands grip the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. Talk to me, she said finally. I don't know what to say. Say what you're thinking. I'm thinking that my grandmother just forced me to choose between the company my father built and the life I want with you. I'm thinking that if I don't buy those shares, Harrison is going to make my life hell. He'll undermine every decision, block every initiative, until I either quit or the board votes me out. He took a shaky breath. And I'm thinking that I have no idea how to raise that much money in 30 days. What if you don't try? He looked at her, shocked. What? What if you don't try? What if you let Harrison buy the shares and you just keep doing your job? He'll destroy me. Maybe. Or maybe you'll be good enough at your job that the rest of the board keeps you on anyway. Lily touched his arm. You've been CEO for 5 years. The company's thriving. The merger went through. You have a track record. It won't matter if Harrison controls grandmother's voting block. Then sell your shares. Walk away. Do something else. Ethan pulled over, turned to face her. You're serious? Why not? You hate the pressure. You barely see Oliver. You're constantly stressed about board politics and Harrison's undermining and whether you're good enough. She took his hand. What if you just stopped? Did something smaller, something that doesn't require 60-hour weeks and constant battling? I can't just walk away from my family's company. Why not? Your father retired. Your grandmother's selling her shares. At some point, you're allowed to want something different. But the company is not the only thing that defines you. You're also a father, a partner, a person who deserves to be happy. Lily's eyes burned. I didn't fall in love with Carlisle Industries. I fell in love with you, the guy who makes lumpy pancakes and worries about his kid and works too hard because he thinks he has to prove something. Ethan stared at her. Then he started laughing. Not happy laughter, more like the sound of something breaking. You're telling me to give up everything I've worked for. I'm telling you to choose what actually matters. They sat in the parked car for a long time. Cars passed. The city hummed. Oliver slept in the back seat, oblivious. I need to think, Ethan said finally. Okay. But not tonight. Tonight I just want to go home and pretend we're normal people with normal problems. We can do that. Except they couldn't, because Ethan spent the next 2 weeks in a tailspin. He met with bankers, explored loan options, called in favors from investors. The number Evelyn had quoted was technically reachable, but it would require leveraging everything. His house, his personal investments, Oliver's trust fund. Lily watched him unravel and felt helpless. She'd meant what she said about him being able to walk away, but she also understood what the company meant to him. Legacy, proof, the last connection to his father. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. Ethan came home at 11, looking like death. Lily was still up, working on sketches for a new client. It's not going to work, he said without preamble. The financing? Any of it. I can get close, but not close enough. Harrison's offer is better, and even if I match it, I'd be so leveraged that one bad quarter would sink me. He collapsed onto the couch. I'm going to lose the company. Lily set down her pencil. Okay? Okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That it's the end of the world? That you failed? She sat beside him. You didn't fail. You're being forced into an impossible choice by someone who thinks the only thing that matters is business. She's not wrong. This is the family legacy. The family legacy is also a 6-year-old kid who needs his father present. A company is just money and contracts. Oliver is real. Ethan looked at her, something broken in his expression. What if I resent you for this? For making me choose? I'm not making you choose. Your grandmother did that. I'm just telling you that whatever you decide, I'm here. Even if I become the guy who walked away from his family business? Especially then, because that guy would finally be choosing himself instead of living up to someone else's expectations. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. She felt him shaking, exhaustion, or grief, or relief. She couldn't tell. I don't know how to be anything other than CEO of Carlisle Industries, he whispered. Then it's time to find out. The next morning, Ethan called Evelyn and declined to match Harrison's offer. The phone call was short, brutal. Lily could only hear Ethan's side, but it was enough. I understand. Yes, I know what this means. No, I'm not going to change my mind. When he hung up, he looked shell-shocked. She's disappointed. Of course she is. She wanted you to fight for it. I did fight for it. For 5 years. But I'm tired, Lily. I'm tired of proving myself to people who've already decided I'm not enough. Oliver appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas. Dad? Are you okay? Ethan pulled himself together, smiled. Yeah, buddy, I'm okay. Just dealing with some work stuff. Are you sad? A little, but also relieved. Oliver climbed onto his lap, and they sat like that for a while. Lily watched them and felt her heart crack open, not from sadness, but from the sheer weight of loving these two people who'd somehow become her entire world. The fallout was swift. Harrison bought Evelyn's shares, immediately started consolidating power. Within a week, he'd scheduled a board vote on Ethan's position as CEO. Ethan didn't fight it. Instead, he announced his resignation, effective in 30 days. The business press had a field day. Articles about the youngest Carlisle walking away from the family empire, speculation about internal conflict, think pieces about whether he'd been forced out. Ethan ignored all of it, spent his final month transitioning responsibilities, setting up his team for success, making sure the company would be fine without him. Lily watched him let go of something he'd held onto for so long it had become part of his identity. It wasn't smooth or easy. There were days he seemed lost, days he second-guessed everything, days he looked at her like he was waiting for her to realize she'd backed the wrong horse. But there were also better days Daisy picked Oliver up from school in the middle of the afternoon. Days he had dinner with them at 5 instead of 9. Days he seemed lighter, younger, more present. On his last day at Carlisle Industries, Ethan came home early. Lily was in the kitchen starting dinner, and Oliver was doing homework. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Strange, like I just walked away from everything I thought I was supposed to be." "And what are you now?" He thought about it. "Unemployed, a bit lost, but also maybe free for the first time in a decade." "So what do you want to do with that freedom?" "I have no idea." Over the next few months, Ethan figured it out. He started consulting, helping other companies with sustainable development, working on projects that interested him without the weight of family legacy. The money was less, but it was enough. More importantly, it let him set his own hours, choose his own clients, actually have a life outside work. He was home for dinner most nights, made it to Oliver's soccer games, took Lily on actual dates instead of squeezing in conversation between meetings. The transformation was subtle but profound. He smiled more, laughed easier, stopped looking like he was waiting for disaster. 6 months after leaving the company, Ethan proposed for real. Not at a fancy restaurant or some elaborate setup, just at home on a Tuesday night after they'd put Oliver to bed. They were sitting on the couch with wine, and he pulled out a ring. "I know we've been engaged before," he said. "Fake engaged, but I want to do this right. Actually ask you. Actually mean it." Lily looked at the ring. Simple, elegant, nothing like the flashy diamond he'd bought for their fake engagement. "I'm already wearing your other ring," she pointed out. "I know, but that ring was part of the performance. This one is real." He took her hand. "Lily Harper, will you marry me? For real this time? Not because of a merger or my grandmother or any reason except that I love you and I want to spend my life with you?" "You're really bad at romantic speeches." "I know, but I'm good at meaning what I say." "Yeah, you are." She kissed him. "Yes, obviously yes." They got married 4 months later, small ceremony at the Connecticut estate with just family and close friends. Oliver was the ring bearer and took his job very seriously. Monica was Lily's maid of honor and cried through the whole thing. Even Evelyn showed up, looking pleased despite having lost her power play. "You did well," she told Lily at the reception. "Got him to choose life over legacy. That's no small thing." "I didn't get him to do anything. He made his own choice." "With your influence, don't sell yourself short." Evelyn sipped her champagne. "For what it's worth, I'm glad he chose you. The company will be fine. Harrison's competent, if unimaginative, but Ethan, he gets to be happy. That's rarer than you think." Lily started to understand what Evelyn meant as months turned into years. She watched Ethan build a new career, one that didn't consume him. Watched Oliver grow up with a father who was actually present, not just physically there, but mentally engaged. Watched their life settle into something that looked nothing like what she'd imagined when she signed that contract in a restaurant booth. Her design business grew slowly but steadily. She took on projects she cared about, turned down ones that would mean sacrificing time with family. The money was fine. They didn't need her income to survive, but having it meant she contributed, mattered, built something that was hers. Some of their old social circle dropped away, confused by Ethan's choice to step back. But others stayed, the ones who'd never cared about his title or his company. They made new friends too, parents from Oliver's school, people from Lily's work, a social circle built on actual connection instead of business networking. It wasn't perfect. They still fought sometimes, still had days where the stress got to them, still struggled with balancing work and family and everything else. But they figured it out together, which turned out to be the whole point. 2 years after the wedding, Lily found out she was pregnant. She told Ethan on a Saturday morning while Oliver was at a sleepover. "Are you sure?" he asked, staring at the test. "Pretty sure. I took 3. We're having a baby." "Looks like it." He pulled her into his arms, and she felt him trembling. "I'm terrified." "Me too. But also happy?" "Yeah, also that." Oliver was ecstatic when they told him. Immediately started planning what he'd teach his little brother or sister, arguing that babies needed to learn about soccer and Legos as early as possible. The pregnancy was harder than Lily expected, morning sickness that lasted all day, exhaustion that made working impossible. But Ethan stepped up, took on more of the household management, hired help when they needed it. He'd learned finally that asking for support wasn't weakness. Their daughter was born on a Tuesday in March, tiny and perfect and terrifying in the way all new humans are. They named her Sarah, after Ethan's first wife, because some ghost deserved to be honored instead of buried. Oliver was obsessed with his baby sister, wanted to hold her constantly, cried the first time she smiled at him. Ethan was different this time, still scared, still anxious, but also more present. He'd missed so much of Oliver's early years, buried in grief and work. With Sarah, he was determined to be there for every moment. Lily watched him change diapers at 3 in the morning, sing off-key lullabies, stare at their daughter like he couldn't quite believe she was real. And she understood, finally, what Evelyn had meant about choosing happiness over legacy. The company Ethan left behind thrived under Harrison's leadership. Carlisle Industries expanded, took on bigger projects, made more money. By all external measures, Harrison was a better CEO than Ethan had been. But Ethan didn't care. He had what he wanted, a family that felt whole, work that mattered without consuming him, a life built on choices instead of obligations. Sometimes Lily thought about that night in the restaurant, when she'd been sitting alone and humiliated and Ethan had appeared with his desperate offer. How easily she could have said no. How different everything would have been if she'd walked away. But she hadn't. She'd taken a chance on something insane and temporary and fake, and somehow it had become the most real thing in her life. Because that was the thing about rock bottom. Sometimes you hit it and stay down, and sometimes you hit it and someone reaches out a hand. The trick was being brave enough to take it, even when you had no idea where it would lead. Lily had taken Ethan's hand in that restaurant, and he'd taken hers right back. They'd built something together from nothing but desperation and hope and the willingness to be honest when it mattered. 3 years after that first night, Lily stood in their kitchen, bigger now. They'd bought a house in Brooklyn with actual space, making pancakes while Ethan fed Sarah, and Oliver argued about whether his soccer team was better than the one on TV. It was chaotic and messy, and nothing like the polished life she'd glimpsed at that engagement party. But it was theirs, built from choices they'd made together instead of circumstances that happened to them. "These are lumpy," Oliver announced, examining his pancake. "They're rustic," Lily corrected. "That's what Dad always says." "That's because it's true." Ethan caught her eye across the table and smiled, the kind of smile that said he knew exactly what she was thinking, that they'd gotten lucky, that they'd found each other when they both needed finding, that sometimes the worst nights lead to the best beginnings. Oliver ate his lumpy pancakes and complained cheerfully. Sarah threw bits of banana on the floor. The morning sun came through the windows and made everything golden. And Lily thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, broke, scared, sitting alone in a restaurant waiting for someone who never showed. She wished she could tell that woman that the disaster she thought she was living through was actually the doorway to everything she'd been missing. That sometimes you had to lose everything to figure out what actually mattered. That love wasn't always neat or expected or easy, but it was worth fighting for when you found it. That the best things in life often started with taking a chance on something that seemed impossible. She didn't know what that woman would have said. Probably something about being realistic, about protecting herself, about not trusting strangers with desperate offers in restaurants. But Lily was glad she hadn't listened to that voice. Glad she'd been broke enough and desperate enough and brave enough to say yes to the insanity. Because on the other side of that yes was this kitchen, this family, this life built from honesty and second chances and the willingness to choose love over fear. It wasn't the fairy tale people imagined when they heard the story, billionaire CEO and broke designer, engagement party at a mansion, all the trappings of wealth and romance. It was better than that. It was real. And real, Lily had learned, was worth more than any fantasy.